Matters campaign. Today, I will be your virtual host. So welcome to Correio for Change, a webinar series the Access Matters Aotearoa brought to you with the support from J.R. Mackenzie Trust and FAICAHA, Ministry of Disabled People. The theme today's webinar is Housing and the Built Environment. We invited thought leaders, academia, experts, and disabled people to discuss building and construction industry and how to have courageous conversations about ableism and what is their role in creating a more inclusive society. Before we dive into our discussion, we have a few housekeeping reminders. After each panel, the audience can participate via the Q&A. If you need to speak or sign, pose your question, select the raise your hand option, and we will enable your audio and video. For speakers and panelists, please speak calmly so our New Zealand Sign Language interpreters, Rosie and Melody, have time to interpret. We have two options for captioning. One is available on your webinar screen, and you can enable this by clicking on the captions at the bottom of your screen. The second option is via a live transcript. We are placing a link in the chat, and you can click on that. This webinar will be recorded and shared with participants. By remaining in this webinar, you are consenting to be recorded. I will start now with a karakia. Kia tau te rangi marie, o te rangi e tuhi honei. O papatuanuku e takoto nei, o te itaiao e awhi nei. Ki runga I e tatou tihei mauriora. May the peace of sky above, of the earth below, and all of the all-embracing universe rest upon us. Behold, it is life. I now welcome to the virtual stage Karen Billings-Jensen, Age Concern Chief Executive. Karen will set the scene for our Correio today, educating all of us on ableism and also ageism, and giving examples of both in the housing and the built environment landscape. Karen, the word is with you.
Thank you, Juliana. Hoping everyone can hear me. I have a short slideshow, but I also only have 5 minutes, so I will be probably scratching the surface. But tēnā koutou, ngā mihi mahana kia koutou. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this amazing gathering of key people to look at such an important issue in terms of the role of housing and built environment, and adding my lens onto those who are ageing and experiencing ageism. I love the way that the program today is structured to be able to hear from thinkers, creators, doers and deciders, but most importantly from all of us, because we are all aging every day. Could I have the next slide, please? So we'll move on to the next one. Thanks, David. So Age Concern is a trusted charity working in local communities throughout Aotearoa, New Zealand to support older people, their friends and whānau. We lead, advocate, connect and collaborate nationally to deliver local services supporting wellbeing and rights. Next slide, please. So we fit right in this conversation. One of our key position areas is housing, which we know is a huge determinant of ageing well and better health outcomes. Housing, its accessibility and its associated costs also impact cost of living on a fixed income. Housing and the built environment impact connection to community and can reduce loneliness and also increase social connection if it's done well. We know that most older people want to age in place and definitely want to age in a place where they feel at home, connected to the people and places they love, and where they can live their life with their choices. Next slide. And this is where we intersect with the broader conversation that's happening today, the conversation on ableism, housing and the built environment. We intersect because there are correlations between ageing with a disability and age-related disability. We intersect because our housing stock is largely not designed to age in, and there's a huge risk that the new building we're seeing in some communities will not support ageing in place. We intersect because every decision that is made about a built environment can impact how people are able to engage with their community. While it was really good to see the new Kāinga Ora development in Avondale profiled on the weekend, we do see large building developments that don't have good design principles, let alone universal design. We see building developments that separate people from the community, that reduce opportunity to connect with essential services, let alone activities that promote social connection and social cohesion. We see building developments that will not stand the test of time and decisions made that will impact their use through the life course and will be difficult to retrofit, even if that's affordable as an option in the future. We see building developments that quite simply would not support the use of a walker if it is needed to negotiate around the kitchen, bathroom, toilet and bedroom. Next slide. Our simple statement at Age Concern around housing is that we want government and all those who make decisions to recognise that renting or home ownership must be viable at all life stages, including older age. Secure, affordable, accessible housing is the foundation of well-being. I know that one of the worrying growth statistics is the increase in homelessness for those over 65, especially women. Housing vulnerability is an increasing problem in terms of rental stock, security of tenure, and even those who own their own home are challenged with affordability of rates and insurance on a New Zealand superannuation fixed income. So you can see all these areas: housing, urban design, income, cost of living, loneliness and social connection. They all connect to our housing and built environment. Next slide. So I'm here for that brief time today, but I did want to explore with you a brief snapshot of questions that I often use to engage a group to think about ageing in their future. I ask them to imagine their life at age 75. Where are you living? Is it your choice to live where you do? What does your home look like? Does it need repairs? Who owns your home? Do you see yourself living here in 5 years or 10 years or 20? Is your house warm enough or cool enough depending on the season? Is it accessible? How safe do you feel? How do you get out and about to the shops or where you want to go? Do you have a vehicle? Is there public transport where you live? Do you feel connected to the community where you live? Are you able to be involved in the things you want to at your community, your church, your marae? These brief questions put us into a place to consider not only our own circumstances, but the trajectory of everyone in our community. Sharper for those living with a disability and experiencing ableism. Sharper for those already feeling the impact of age-related challenges. And last slide. So I commend the conversations that you're having today and thank you for providing a platform to look at something as fundamental as housing. Age Concern New Zealand and our 29 age concerns across the country share the same worries about what we're seeing. We seek to be part of raising awareness and finding solutions, adding our voice to yours so we can be stronger together. Thank you.
Apologies for that. I was muted. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Karen. So just a bit of storytelling when you talk about the social connection and actually the impact of not, building places and houses with universal design from scratch. When I moved from Auckland to Tauranga, I couldn't find a rental here. And I had just couldn't find an accessible house to live or to rent. And I have to shower in a porch for 6 months until that was sorted with a portable shower that was installed in the property where I'm living. And many people are affected by the situation. Our next speaker is Katie Burke. Katie is an accessibility advisor and educator working with Barrier Free, a branch of CCS Disability Action. She has over 15 years of experience as an accessibility consultant, both in Ireland and the UK. Katie will share examples of accessibility standards and legislation overseas. Katie, welcome to Corero for Change.
Introduction, Juliana. As Juliana said, I've been working in accessibility for 15 years now, but I am also a very proud member of the disabled community. I'm a wheelchair user myself, so it very much influences the work that I do. I will draw a reference from overseas, but I just wanted to start just with a wee excerpt from Article 9 of the UN CRPD, which says to enable persons with disabilities to live independently and participate fully in all aspects of life, state parties shall take appropriate measures to ensure all persons with disabilities access to on an equal basis with others. And that is fundamentally the basis of what we do. It's about equity and equitable access. Sadly, here in New Zealand, there is no accessibility requirement for housing. I will discuss that more shortly, but currently there is no accessibility requirement. So while there is no requirement, there is no impetus to move equity or equitable access forward. Following on from that, internationally and the general built environment. Honestly, when preparing this speech, I thought about how I would like to approach this. The built environment consists of everything we build. So it's our park and recreation spaces. It's the buildings that we visit every day. It's public toilets. It can't be covered in 5 minutes on the accessibility legislation internationally with regard to all these spaces. What I can say is, internationally speaking, the most recent updates in Britain to this sort of guidance was 2018. To Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, was 2022. New Zealand last updated its accessibility requirements in 2001. So we need to think about that. But I am in a wonderful position in the work that I do. I work with some amazing clients, amazing. And we bring in legislation and guidance from all over the world. We present this to our clients and say, how can we do better? How can we do better than what is existing? How can we do better to be more inclusive? So when we talk about adult change facilities, which are a requirement in both Irish and British standards, when we talk about that to people here, if possible, they will jump on board and look at a mechanism to include that in their design. But I think the key factor is, in a lot of these cases, we get in at design stage and we can educate clients, talk to clients, look at what standards are available to support what they're trying to do. But ultimately that leads to better buildings. So there is potential, even now, to build better buildings. without that regulation, without that up-to-date guidance, but it is a choice because the guidance is out there. We can look at what other people are doing and apply it in a New Zealand context. Even Australia has updated their standards as recently as 2021. So let's take the impetus. Let's look overseas. Let's look at what other people are doing and don't copy, but look at it and apply it in a New Zealand context and how it works for the New Zealand community, the New Zealand population, the New Zealand disabled people, and the New Zealand aging people, and everyone. The idea and the epitome of universal design, covering everyone. Now, I just thought I'd share a little story. Like Juliana, I'm a bit of a storyteller. And accessibility regulation is fantastic and amazing. But let's look at what happens when we don't have it. I have recently moved from overseas and have recently bought a property in a district in the South Island. During the process of looking for that house, I viewed over 100 houses. And when I finally decided on a house, you'll find that it has no access. But of those 100 houses I viewed, none of them had access either, not in the front door. So how are we supposed to view a house, never mind buy a house? And there are a number of barriers outside of the built environment to a disabled person buying a house in the first place. So if we can't get through the door, what are we supposed to do? And then following on from that, I've bought the house. We've all moved in, family and all. Kids' bikes are blocking the front door, as most family houses have that issue. But in order to have a shower, I must crawl on the floor. That's my daily routine. I get up in the morning, I bum shuffle across the floor into the shower where, you know, I kind of have to use a stick to reach the controls. And that is the reality. And that will be my reality. Because unfortunately, the systems aren't in place to address that quickly or in a timely fashion so that you get the dignity of that. So while I raise 3 kids, while I work 40 hours a week, while I run around to birthday parties and shopping and all the things that you must do as part of family life, I'm still crawling on the floor. Now, when you consider the area that I chose, I did a lot of research about the built environment around the house I bought. And that was essentially why I bought where I bought. Out of an entire district, I could look at 2 square kilometres of that district. And that was the area in which the local facilities were accessible to me, i.e., I could push my child on the swing. I could get to the sports centre and things like that. So not only have we got limited housing stock, we've got limited areas that we can look at. And with the legislation that's available, both here and overseas, needs to be implemented well. Because even our 2001 standards have a good basis to build from. And even then in buildings now, they're not always applied as well as they might be, or they might be avoided. So to finalize, I could go on forever, but to finalize, my thoughts are that accessibility, whether here or overseas, and I have seen it, it's a choice. It's not always about regulation. It's about the people that drive the building. It's about people that build the regulation, and it's about people that ultimately decide to build these houses for a select number of the population, which
Karen,
sadly doesn't include disabled people or elderly people.
sorry, Katie, time is up. Thank you so much for your participation, and you know, like I feel that you have to crawl to have your shower, and thank you for sharing, you know, this vulnerability, you know, what we're being exposed. In Access Matters Aotearoa, we've been campaigning for accessibility legislation for the past 7 years. And we know that to have, basic human rights for people with disabilities, we need legislation with enforceable standards. That's what we need.
We also
So-
need willpower from the community.
Absolutely. So now we move to our third speaker. Please, let's welcome Honorable Kieran McNulty. He will speak as his position from the Labour Party from the Labour Party housing spokesperson. I just want to note that we also invited Honorable Tama Potaka, Associate Minister for Social Housing, Honorable Chris Bishop, Minister for Housing, Honorable Chris Pink, Minister for Building and Construction, and Honorable Louise Upston, Minister for Disability Issues. But unfortunately, the invitations, even though they were given well in advance, none of them had the time to attend, and they declined the invitation. We also will have the participation of Priyanka Radhakrishnan, and she will speak from her perspective as a disability spokesperson from the Labour Party. Thank you so much for being here with us, and the virtual stage is all yours.
Well, kia ora, Juliana, and kia ora tātou, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. G'day everyone. Really pleased to have the opportunity to join you today, and delighted to have the company of Priyanka alongside as well. For us, it was an important opportunity to outline and recognise that housing is a critical issue facing this country, but in particular, it is a major issue facing the disability community. And whilst some progress has been made over the recent years, there is so much more to do. May I just check before we start, is there the provision for attendees to ask questions? Are you comfortable with that as an approach?
So that will happen after each one of the panels, but not with the speakers.
Okay.
And just let's be mindful of the time as well.
How long would you like us to contribute for?
So we had set aside 5 minutes. So if you and Priyanka can speak, maybe let's put 3 minutes for each, and then we can
No
go.
problem.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. So often politicians can ramble on, so we'll get straight to the point.
Yeah.
For us, it's about acknowledgement and recognition. And there's a staggering statistic that not many people know, and even some of those that do know don't appreciate, that 70% of Kāinga Ora tenants are members of the disabilities community. And so on that basis, I fully appreciate and understand your position and your calling for 100% of social houses to be accessible. We had a manifesto commitment of 25% that was building on the commitment that we made of 15%, which was met. And I think that signals our intention to ensure that social houses, as they are built and provided, are accessible to all those that need them. We recognise that retrofitting social housing to accommodate members of the disability community is far more expensive than it is to do so at the beginning. And I want to recognise the efforts of Kāinga Ora in particular to provide for that. Kāinga Ora have done a phenomenal job over the last 6 years to build capacity in the network. And since the change of government, their efforts have been deliberately undermined. We don't have much faith in this government to provide for the needs of housing in our communities, but especially in the disability community, and that concerns us greatly. For example, there has been $1.5 billion removed from the housing budget at the last at the budget just gone. 430 million of that was for new builds for Kāinga Ora. That has not gone into community housing providers or the provision of housing. That's gone back to the centre to pay for tax cuts. We had the housing minister appear at select committee yesterday, and he confirmed that the funding that was provided for new social houses is roughly half of that had been provided previously. And so that concerns us greatly. So that's in terms of housing provision generally, but it does concern us in terms of the issue of accessible housing. If the numbers are dropping, when you consider that over the last 6 years, there was a record level of houses built for social houses and public houses, the highest rate since the 1950s. And despite all that, the numbers needing a home continue to grow. Our concern is that the waiting list will grow even faster with a significant drop in the provision of housing. Since given we're short on time, perhaps I might hand over to Priyanka.
Just on time.
Oh, how good.
Kia ora koutou katoa. Juliana, to you and the team at Access Matters, thank you for putting this together, this webinar. And I know you've done many others on various topics that are important to disability communities. So thank you. Just acknowledging your advocacy work over the years as well, and that of others who may be here joining us, and others who have worked for many years on these issues and may not be here as well. Can I also just acknowledge Autism New Zealand and the community housing initiative that you're working on with Equity New Zealand to provide housing specific to the needs of our autistic people and wider autism communities as well. So there's a fair bit of good work that's happening out in the communities as well. And we all have a part to play to make Aotearoa New Zealand more accessible and more inclusive as a society, as does the government. And that's why when we were in government and established Whaikaha, the Ministry of Disabled People, part of the role of that ministry was to work across government agencies to really advocate for change that will benefit disability communities. And that's really what I wanted to say. Kieran's already touched on the fact that we, for the first time, brought in a 15% target for new builds to be built in accordance with the Universal Design Standards, and that, as is reflected in our manifesto, is a continually progressing moving target to increase the supply there. And I think it's fair to say that that's what we'll keep doing as well.
Absolutely. For the one thing I wanted to get across today is that when you're a spokesperson for the opposition, you have two roles. One is to respond to what the government is doing. I say respond because we don't take the view that we just oppose it. If it's a good idea, we say so. We haven't seen too many good ideas. That's why we haven't said it very often. But the other side of that is it's our job to lead the development of policy heading into the next election. And Priyanka and I have already committed amongst ourselves to work together to build a comprehensive and credible policy in regards to disability housing. And so an invitation to all of you, if you wish to meet with us to discuss an issue or propose an idea, we are up for that. We want to take this role seriously, and we are open to any proposal for consideration for inclusion in our policy platform moving forward. So please do get in touch. We'd love to talk to you about this. We take this job very seriously.
And I'll just add to that. I know that this is a webinar that's focused on housing, but equally I'm doing that in the disability space with our education spokesperson, transport, and others as well. So just putting that call out a little bit more broadly as well. But thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kieran and Priyanka, for taking the time to join us today. And just commenting on the Kāinga Ora, ideally should be 100%, because people don't realize that, you know, life happens and disability is part of life. So out of nowhere, you might be needing to live in a house that is fully accessible, or how are you gonna, you know, receive your friends and families who have disabilities or mobility impairments? All right, so let's get started with our panels. So please, let's welcome the deciders. So mediating this Corero is Raymond Dufton, commercial property landlord and entrepreneur. Raymond became quadriplegic after a motor accident, and he will introduce the panelists. Just a reminder for the speakers and panelists, please speak calmly so our New Zealand Sign Language interpreters, Rosie and Melody, have time to interpret. Raymond, thank you so much for joining us today. The word is with you.
Okay, good morning, and thanks for being involved, and thanks Juliana and all the others involved in putting this thing together. Okay, just quickly, first of all, yeah, I'm a tetraplegic, so I had a motorsport accident, and now all I can do is move my head and my shoulders. So yeah, I joined the disability movement really fast 5 years ago. But just give you some idea, I'm lucky enough to be living in Auckland in Hawaii, so it's our biggest city. But when all the other stories that you guys have talked about and things are still relevant in Auckland as well, whether it's the hassle of trying to find accessible housing is not easy. I'm one of the lucky ones in a way that I had an accident, so I've got ACC behind me, which is really great. The only problem is I've now been a chair 5 years, and the house that I bought a year ago still's had nothing modified to it other than what I've paid for. It's still going paperwork after paperwork, and one day I'll hopefully get it sorted. But rightio, now we've got 3 other people involved, and hey, I've never done one of these things before, so she's a learning curve for me. But probably I'm trying to operate all this on voice control with one of my carers sitting beside me. So she's gonna, if you wonder why I'm talking to the screen or talking to my carer, apologies for that, but that's the only way I can make it happen. Right, now the speakers that are involved, I'll get each one of them just to say something quickly, if you like, in the same order as what Juliana had them on the list for. So if the first one can jump in. G'day, Paul.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Paul Gilbert. I'm the Chief Executive of an organisation called Community Housing Aotearoa. We have about 80 members across the country. We're a charitable incorporated society. Those members you'd be familiar with in your places and towns. They include organisations like the Salvation Army and the City Missions and Habitat for Humanity and Accessible Properties and all those sorts of organisations. So we provide affordable housing for low and moderate income households across the country. We've got about 20% of those homes, and Kāinga Ora have the other 80%. So we're a player in that same space, and it's a real pleasure to be here. Thanks, Raymond.
Cheers, Paul. The next one, jump in, please. Hello, Bruce.
Good morning, Raymond. Sorry about that. First thing I want to say this morning is thank you very much for inviting me here. I'm here wearing 2 hats, just to keep you aware of it. I'm the lead architect at Brands, but I also have an architectural practice as well, which is still active in Wellington. So I'll possibly refer to both of those aspects when I'm talking. I've got experience in both, so obviously I think they're both relevant. Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks, Bruce. Great. Right, and number 3.
Kia ora tātou, called Len Salt Toko Ingoa, and you'll please, can everyone hear me? I had some sound issues earlier on, so please forgive me. I'm recovering from a nasty dose of influenza, so I'm a bit croaky at the moment, and at some stage when it comes to the discussion, I will have to delegate and hand over to Councillor Robin Sinclair, who is the chair of our Sustainability and Resilience Committee. So thank you for inviting me onto this. This is an important discussion, and I just I'm already picking up notes and following with fascination and interest. And so welcome everybody, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you. Now, what's meant to be happening is the 200 people that are linked into this thing this morning are meant to be able to fire questions at each one of you or as a group, and so we'll yet to see how that's going to work, because I haven't had any questions flash up on my screen, but no doubt Juliana's got that under control somewhere. Juliana, have you?
Hi, Raymond. This is Isabel. Would you like me to send that to you in the chat for you to read out, or would you prefer me to read them out? Which would be easiest for you?
It's probably easier for you to read them, because I'm only trying to operate on one screen. So yeah, no, if you do that, especially if the ones you think are relevant to the guys that we've got here at this morning.
Yeah, absolutely.
But first, we have the opportunity for opening statements from each one of the panelists, and then we can start with the Q&A. So Paul, if you want to start with you have 3 minutes for your opening statement. Then we go to Bruce and then Len. Thank you.
So, thanks, Juliana. Yeah, I thought I'd start by really clearly stating that from a community housing perspective, I said we've got about 80 members across the country who are what are called registered community housing providers. We also have another 50 members who include local government and delivery partners and finance partners and building partners and architectural and design partners. We believe adequate housing is a human right. We are very tightly connected up with the United Nations approach to adequate housing and the definition of adequate housing that the United Nations subscribes to. And we believe every New Zealander has the right to a decent home. So that's our starting position. And I'm speaking there on behalf of all of our members who are providing houses from Invercargill to the far north and Kaitaia and everywhere in between. In general, the providers have a broad range of backgrounds in terms of their whakapapa. Some have come from social services, some from disability services. One example of that is Accessible Properties, who are one of the largest providers in New Zealand. Many, in fact, come from a faith background. And so there's quite a diverse group. Some are very large, some are very, very small. And just because you're small doesn't mean you're not perfectly well-formed and doing a great job. Size doesn't really matter. I'd also like to say we are deeply committed to universal design standards with all new supply. However, much of the supply that our members provide is old housing stock, and it is not appropriate for easy accessibility and is not fit for purpose for a range of reasons. So we as a peak body, one of our core functions, and I openly offer to you to use me in this capacity, one of our core functions is to face across the road. I'm here in Wellington on the terrace, is to face across the road into Parliament and to advocate for better policy and better funding settings in favour of better outcomes so we can adequately house all New Zealanders. And that includes accessibility. Absolutely, that is hardwired in there. Unfortunately, many of the current policy settings and funding settings do not support, as one of your earlier speakers mentioned, do not support good accessibility outcomes. So, for example, a new social housing project, I know of many in urban contexts where the plans have been rejected to put a lift into a 3-level walk-up, which would make the other 66% of the dwellings accessible because the government funding will not cover the cost of the installation and maintenance of a lift. So that's an example where we can only then do the bottom floor as accessible, and there's a lot of these 3-level things happening around the country. So it's just a practical example of one of the challenges we face as charitable community providers trying to do the right thing in the current context. Thanks very much.
Rightio, cheers, Paul. Thank you very much. Bruce, you're up next. Thank you.
That's it.
Way now.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, gotcha.
Cool. Thanks very much. Thanks, Raymond. Now, first of all, just like to just mention the role of brands, and that we've, sorry, just for people who don't understand, BRANZ stands for the Building Research Association of New Zealand, and we comment on and monitor and appraise, various elements of the construction industry and design industry. But just for my own information, I did a search on our website the other day, and I found I just typed in Universal Design, and I found over 300 pages of material and links beyond to study reports, etc., which is on our website, and a lot of it's very detailed. And I was surprised to be honest, I was surprised at the quantity it was there and the quality of it, because it seems to be infrequently tapped resource. It's something that is there, and people only perhaps go to it, designers, etc., out in the community when they need to or are forced to. And on the back of that, I'd like to point out that one of the basic tenets at BRANZ, when we're talking about these sort of things, design, etc., we've got a mantra, and you would have probably heard it: good, better, best. And we will deal with the good way of dealing with things, but we'll show how that's done. But we're always advocating for it to be done better, and if possible, you follow best practice. And I know there's lots of constraints, affordability, etc., but it's still what we should be striving for. And the other thing I'd point out is that I think it was Karen brought up NZS 4121 earlier on. And I actually think it's a great document, but there's another thing that people need to remember about standards. And a standard tells us what the minimum standard is for any situation or any piece of work that you're doing. And we are acutely aware of that at BRANZ as well, because reaching the minimum standard sounds like you're not really trying that hard. And quite often going those extra steps is not a huge leap. It might mean a little bit of extra cost, but it is not a colossal step. It's just a little bit, moving a little bit further along the spectrum towards a perfect design, if they exist. And a good example is door widths. The minimum wheelchair width for a hinge door is 760 mils off the top of my head, I think. But the cost of putting in an 810 door or an 860 door leaf, I imagine, is a handful of dollars. It's not a big incremental cost. And there's just one last thing to say is that we've got to get our message out from BRANZ about the availability of this material and how to engage and use it. Thank you.
Rightio, cheers, Bruce. Yeah, you brought up the doorways is a big one, all right. Cavity sliders are brilliant. We know they're more expensive to put in at the time, but you get another, 25 mil at least on each side, and it makes it accessible. And it's such a wide range too, because the people in manual wheelchairs are generally, one that haven't got motors, they're generally a little bit narrower and a lot lighter, and they can get through. But once you get into a power chair, one with a motor and everything, which you've got to drive with a joystick, or I drive with my chin. They get a bit bigger and heavier. Like the chair alone is over 200 kgs. And I'm 100 kgs, but I've met guys that are 200 kgs. So you can imagine the width somewhat expands then for a doorway. But the other big one probably is, other than doorways, this is once you can get into a house, is the showers that were touched on before. I'm still showering after 5 years in the garage in the portable shower, which is, I'm lucky I'm not living in Invercargill temperature-wise, because the garage isn't cold. But so But hey, we all heading in the right direction. There's a lot of great stuff being brought up this morning, and I'm sure there'll be a lot more to come. But okay, Len, we'll talk to you, all the men from Gowran Coromandel.
Sure. Thank you, Raymond. And I'll ask Councillor Robin Sinclair just to give us a wave. Thanks, Robin. Thank you for joining us. So look, what I'd like to do is talk about the importance of local government, the importance of our roles with myself as a mayor and our councillors in this process. And it starts right at the beginning with an awareness that there even is an issue. And look, when I was growing up, it's not something that was talked about. You know, the houses were built and buildings were constructed for commercial or residential purposes or whatever. There just wasn't an awareness. So I think the start of the process is that awareness. Identifying a need for policy. And this is something that I think is probably lacking in a number of local government areas, that there isn't even a policy to start from. And if you're in local government and you don't have a policy from which to begin, then you can't build a strategy, you can't come up with the tools in the toolbox. So identifying a need for policy, and that identifying that policy and putting that policy together starts with listening to the communities that are directly affected and that are going to be the best place to build that policy and to come up with those strategies. And that's about not just about consulting, that's about partnering and engaging with the people in the community who know best. And this is a policy or a strategy that we've put in place as a council, not just for disability, but across the board with a number of other areas that we've identified that need some work. The decision-making process then comes from that, and one of the areas that we have to be really clear about is what is the role of local government in housing in particular. It's something that, as Thames Coromandel, we're aware that we have the highest population of aged and aging people in the country. And that creates its own problems, but then you add to that our housing stock across quite a lot of the district is older housing stock, and retrofitting, as has already been identified, is very, very expensive. So once we've got a focus on the policy and the strategy, what we need then is the tools in the toolbox to make sure that whatever our role is and whatever we do is enabled and resourced. And that's where the critical part of, and we're just going through this process as a council with our long-term plan, and the critical role of councils then becomes planning and future development. So district plan and spatial planning. And when I came to Thames Coromandel District Council, we had spatial plan for the Thames area, which was fantastic, but there were no spatial plans for any of the rest of the district. So we've now committed in our long-term plan to putting in spatial plans for all the other townships right through the district. And that takes a commitment of resources, it takes a political commitment, and it takes bringing your communities along for the ride, because there's a cost to this. But the cost to this is I think, minimal compared to the cost of not doing this and not preparing for the future. So that's the process that we're going through at the moment, and we're partway through. Once you've got all of this in place, then you've got to make sure that funding is and resources are there, that we have our planning and our regulatory teams resourced and enabled, and to be heading in the right direction to provide the solutions. And then once you've got all of that, then the next stage of the process is to go back and review and revise and adapt. And I have to be honest, in local government, that process is frustratingly slow. It's a challenge at every stage. And there's always this dynamic that goes on between local government and central government. And the reality of local government is that the resource tools or the funding tools available to us are very, very limited. We're making compromises and making decisions on at every stage of the process that we go through every day. What we've got to do as governors and as a team sitting around the council table is make sure that we are speaking on behalf of the people in our communities that don't have a voice. And Robin and I live in one of those districts that has very diverse communities. We've got some very wealthy parts of our district. We've got some people who have very, very loud voices, and they can be pretty demanding about what facilities and amenities they want. And one of the challenges that we have constantly is to say to ourselves and the rest of our councillors, well, hang on a minute, are we hearing from all parts of our communities? Are we hearing from our disability communities, our aged communities, our iwi? Are we hearing from the people that live on marae and live in more remote parts of the district? Because if we're not hearing from them, then we have a responsibility to step up and be leaders and governors on their behalf, as well as the people who might have the loudest voices. So look, I'll leave it there. That's just a bit of a snapshot of the process that we go through, and looking forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
Cheers, Len. Hey, it's great to see that somebody's doing exactly what you're doing with policy and making a list of ways to attack it, because if the rest of the country starts doing a similar sort of thing, it'll be epic. And we all got to consider two things can happen. I never ever thought this. I never even thought about disability in my life. I never thought it would happen to me, but it happened. Okay, but any one of you guys, whether you could have a child and it could be born with a disability, or there's sicknesses that sneak up on people and get them. I've met people that just had an infection in their spine, and next thing they're paralysed. But the other big thing in this country too, we've got ACC, which is funded pretty well every day by businesses, and I know how much those fees are because I paid a lot, but I'm getting a lot back now because I am ACC. But if you're not on ACC, if you've had a sickness or you're born with something, you've got none of that. Okay, none of that funding, and it's a hell of a lot harder. But just bear in mind, it can happen to anybody at any time. But okay, rightio. Hey, thanks you guys. It's been epic. So now these questions should flow on through. Is that correct?
Yes, we do have one person, Fiona, with her hand up. So I'm just going to allow her to turn her video on in case she's wanting to sign. So just making her a panelist. That should hopefully happen quickly. But in the meantime, I'll go in and have a look at some of these questions. So Judy is asking, I'll just type the question as well. Hold on a second, sorry. So hearing loss is an invisible disability. What are you doing to ensure acoustic environments that facilitate interactive participation?
Are we firing that one to anybody in particular, or if anyone's got any bright ideas, how about they just step up and say if they've got any?
Yeah, so the question is for all of the panelists, so everybody can chip in.
So the big thing is there's so many different types of disability, and everybody's either not involved in any of them and involved in different ones. And it's amazing how they do. One doesn't think about there as a disability until you've been faced with it. But see, blind and lack of sound is, being blind, I reckon it's got to be the worst. But anyway, anyone got any policy they put in place or any thoughts?
I'll comment on that very quickly, although this is getting down into the detail, perhaps of design more than policy, but it still has a role in terms of how your policy is covered. And one of the things that comes immediately to mind is some of the options that are available to councils is to look at and enable and allow higher rise buildings, because we, particularly in places like Thames, we're very, very limited for space. So is that a consideration? And if you're going up more than one level, what does that look like for a disabled person? What does that look like for people living in close proximity to each other? And how do we ensure a built environment that does account for all factors, including acoustic factors? So that then becomes something that we would go to our planning and design and regulatory folks, and then come back to, they would then bring it back to the table and say, well, listen, at a policy level, have we got all the bases covered? And I don't think we can take it for granted that the people doing the design elements necessarily cover it automatically. I think there's got to be a lot of teamwork there. We've got to have an overview of what our communities need at a policy level, and then work in with our planners and our regulators and design people to make sure that we've got it covered.
That's a great point, Len. And putting my designer's hat on for a moment, we have to not so much think of the universal design standards as nice to have and put them in when we have to or when we can. We should be normalising or standardising them so we use them all the time, irrespective of who we are designing for. I've got a great example of that. I live in a house that was designed built in the 1930s. It was built for a very wealthy client, as you touched on as well. But he was a doctor, and he had, I've read the plans, and the other part of the family was his invalid mother. So she lived upstairs with him, and in the second most beautiful bedroom in the house. My children always fight over it. But there's wider hallways, there's curves on the corner of the hallways, the steps are lower tread height, the stairs are about 50 millimetres wide, far wider than standard. And even 90 years later, we all actually enjoy those benefits that were built into the building to make life a little bit easier for. It's not a compromise we have to make or anything at all. They are literally part of the joy of living in the house, is that it's so easy to live in and move around. So I think you hit the nail on the head with at least getting designers to start going the extra mile just intuitively, not because they have to.
Right.
Just to add what you've said, Bruce, there's some really good examples I can think of recently with specific reference to acoustics, which was the question, I believe. Yep. Salvation Army, certainly the last 100 houses I've seen them deliver in Auckland and in Hamilton are extraordinarily efficient in terms of acoustics and thermal envelopes. So very, very well built in terms of removing unwanted noise, which is helpful for a range of conditions, including autism, where here in Wellington, a beautiful green building was stood up recently with a similar design brief to assist people with unwanted stimulation in terms of light and sound. So there are things that you can do. In the Salvation Army case, the innovation there was a completely different construction and design methodology using SIPS panels, and that behaves very differently and better from an acoustic and thermal envelope perspective. So there are really good technical solutions to help with better sound environments to help people who are suffering from auditory impairment or whatever issue it is, that the unwanted sound can be controlled quite well if it's designed in at the beginning.
Yeah, no, true enough. Because you come across things like, hey, there are brilliant products out there that'll soak up the sound and all those things, which is epic. You just got to use them. But because the other side of it, generally people in chairs like hard floors, as in whether it's tile or wood or whatever, but then it brings in the sounding problem because the sound bounces around so much more. But yeah, using the right products when you're building the house and allowing for the wet shower and things like that. Because wet showers now they don't look like hospital beds anymore. Sorry, hospital rooms, they don't need it. They've been very stylish and very flash. And everyone who used them would never even know it was a disability bathroom area until someone visits them and they can actually use the thing. But yeah, okay, so now I think we covered that question. I hope for the person who put that one in. We've got another one lined up there.
Yes, we do, and but we are getting short of time. So so there's a question here from Andrew Hall. For large scale developments, 10 plus units in one go, could a council decide to only grant a building consent if a set percentage, maybe 25% of the development was fully accessible?
Right. Well, it sounds like a great idea because all the ones that I've seen that are built not too far from where I am, they're very, very narrow, very, very small, but very, very tall. It's in 3 levels and a hell of a lot of stairs. Yeah, if we can get away with not having stairs, it would be great. But when you're talking 3 levels, you can't have a ramp, can you? And most of the houses are far too small to put any sort of lifting device in. But yeah, someone else has bound to got some thoughts on that one.
Raymond, I wonder if I might ask Councillor Sinclair to field that one. I'm starting to run out of voice here, so thank you.
No, absolutely. No, absolutely. Can you just repeat the question?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Andrew is asking if, hold on a second, now I lost the question.
I think you've sent it to...
I've got that in the chat as well if it's easier to read. But for large scale developments, 10 plus units in one go, could a council decide to only grant a building consent if a set percentage, maybe 25% of the development was fully accessible?
Thank you. I don't believe that the consenting process would be the correct mechanism for that decision. That would be a policy decision based on spatial planning, which Len touched on earlier. And a number of our communities have said that they would like spatial planning. We've had some come to us and specifically talk about the need for spatial planning for facilities that are appropriate for people who are not able-bodied. I think this is something that we would have to look at the spatial planning level. And that's probably all I could put on at this point, yeah.
Great.
No, my apologies, I can add one extra thing. Just to follow on from Len's point about who we're hearing from. Sometimes when we get large scale developments come in, we're really only hearing from the developer in these instances. And a really important tool for council to have is the voice of the people who aren't talking to the developers. So I've made it a point of making sure that I'm visiting community groups that I know exist and don't hear from. However, I'm really aware that there's a big unknown in that, and that I'm not sure who I'm not talking to because I'm only talking to the people that I know exist. And so if there's one take-home message from this, it would be try to foster a relationship and tell your elected members what it is that you need. Don't assume that somebody else is going to tell them. If you can see that there's a need for these developments to include this, make sure that you are constantly telling us. You cannot tell us enough.
Absolutely. So Raymond, I would say we have lots of other questions, but because of time, would the panelists be comfortable to receive those questions offline later on and then provide responses, and then we can distribute that? Brilliant. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much. This is really, really interesting conversation. I wish we had more time to continue. There's a lot of interesting questions in the Q&A. So now let's head to our second panel with the thinkers. And mediating this Corero, we have Dr. Juhana Hickey. Juhana is a disability lawyer. She will introduce the thinkers. Just a reminder for the benefit of our interpreters and our deaf attendees, please speak calmly so our New Zealand Sign Language interpreters can have time to interpret. Lovely to see you, Dr. Hu.
You too. Kia
So
ora,
this-
everybody.
The stage is yours.
Thank you. Kia ora, everybody. I won't take too much time up. I know you want to hear from the actual people who do the designing, but let me just start with something here, context, before we go to our guest. And that is, well, as a wheelchair user myself in Kāinga Ora, it is an issue around access. I noticed someone asked a question around the kitchen. When they got to my kitchen, they said, we've got no more money, so it's not been modified, so I can't access it at all. But it's nice to be able to have a bathroom I can use by myself sometimes. Anyway, let's see what these architects and that have to say to us. So we've got Dr. Lee Betty, I hope is here. We have Dr. Kay Seville Smith, or she's off sick, I think, unless she is here. We have Dr. Claire Flemmer, and Dr. Rod Barnett, if he has made it or not, I don't think. Anyway, let us get going. We've got the two here. You guys are carrying it for the others who are sick or haven't made it on. Welcome, welcome. So we've got Dr. Lee Betty. You're an associate professor and head of School of Architecture and Planning at the University of Auckland. Lovely to meet you. And we have Dr. Claire Flemmer, senior lecturer at the School of Built Environment at Massey University. Lovely to meet you too. I'd like to know if you'd like to introduce yourselves for a couple of minutes, and then we will get on to any questions that any of these guys have, any of the consumers here have. So Dr. Lee, Betty.
I was going to say,
first.
Claire, would you like to go first?
Oh, there you go.
Well, actually, I think that Dr. Hannah has done a great job of introducing me. Sorry about the name. I
Just
don't need
Dr.
to say
Who's
anything.
fine.
Okay, that's easy to remember. So I don't need to say anything until I get to talk about the project I'm involved in.
Thank you. Dr. Lee, isn't it?
Oh,
Lee
yeah.
Betty. Yes.
Yeah, Kia ora, everyone, and thanks very much for the opportunity to come along and speak today. Don't know really what you'd like me to say, but what I'm trying to say is this is forefront of my mind as the head of a School of Built Environment. So at the school here, we teach architecture, urban planning, and urban design, and I'm actually an associate professor of urban design. That's my baseline discipline, as well as I've been a trained urban planner as well. But I think the thing that really is troubling me, or something that I'm thinking about, is what are we actually teaching the students relevant about in 2030? Because if we were doing an architectural response here, that would be 5 years, and urban planning it's 4 years, and if you're doing urban design, it'd be 5 years as well, because you have to have an architectural urban planning before you get into that. So what sort of skill sets are we teaching our students that come out into the profession in 2030? And that's really challenging me at the moment in terms of the impact of technology, all of those types of things, AI, what does this all mean? So I think for us as a school, we're trying to reinvent ourselves back into the political economy. You know, who benefits from all this? I think we've had lots of discussions today about rights to the city, disabilities. And when we talk about disabilities, there's a whole range of things. What's really brought home to me in my role as a head of a school here is just the impact that the students are facing in terms of social anxiety and all those types of things. We're talking about dementia, we're talking about the way we design buildings and forms. Those are sort of things that I think that we need as a school. And I don't know if my other three colleagues were here, they probably might say exactly the same thing. Thinking about as an architecture, urban planning, urban design school, what should we be teaching?
So is there, I guess the question then is there actually a paper within your design, within the school's plans that focuses on the needs of unique communities? So in other words, like I know our housing is not developed it's only developed for about 18% of the population. The other 80-odd% have like multi-generational housing, doesn't really exist. We have where you've got people with different needs, ages, whatever, that doesn't seem to cater for those larger, for those diverse needs of housing. We've sort of always built for the nuclear family rather than for the range of needs out there.
Look, I don't let Claire talk in a moment, but I mean, I 100% agree with what you're saying. And I think that's the job as an educator here, is to try and challenge those orthodoxies. And that's what we want to get out of the students, you know, and try to create the next generation of leaders. I know it sounds a bit sort of, you know, sort of almost sloganistic, but that's really what I want to do, because you're exactly right. We're not designing homes. We're designing 2-bedroom terrace houses on 70 square terrace houses on, you know, on 100 square meters of land, instead of thinking about that in a more strategic way. I totally really agree with you. And I think that's what we've got to be doing. We've got to challenge the students to go out there, and we've got to challenge the whole industry. Why are we favoring one segment over the other? Why are we phoning? And then we can move into the whole renting space. Why do we favor people who have land ownership over renters? All those types of things we need to challenge.
Well, I guess also I was on the Old Housing New Zealand board briefly as a director, and the architects, I tried and tried and tried to get them to listen. And then at the last meeting, I ended up disappointed. After 2 years, they still didn't present new designs. Now, I know Mike Potter from Disability Connect, Vivian Naylor from Barrier Free Trust, and myself, we actually reviewed the Grays Avenue building built in Auckland with the 12 accessible units. And we're 3 wheelies, and we all came away really disappointed because they didn't listen again. And there's access in the theory, but in the practice, how is it applied? And one of those issues there was that one of those things that came up was, my gosh, you never thought about the fact that a wheelchair user might need to have a caregiver sleeping over. You had 1.5 rooms. The shower wasn't designed. I need 2 carers when I shower. It wasn't designed to fit nice Polynesian bodies, 3 of them, into those little boxes. The kitchen wasn't designed for the actual individual to cook for themselves. It still has a long way to go. And I guess that's where we're sitting at, because we had the first disability strategy and the first consultation in 70 years, and yet we still don't know how that's going. So I wonder if that fits nicely into CLEAR and some of the work that you're doing right now, and possibly we can go on from there.
All right. Can I share my screen with you?
Yes. I'm sure the moderators can. There you go. Perfect.
Okay. So hi, everyone. I'm involved in a research project that is looking at making the public buildings in New Zealand more inclusive and accessible for everyone, being funded by BRANZ's Building Research Levy. This is quite a strange project because it looks at the big picture from a range of perspectives, and we have a panel of experts with a range of disabilities advising us so we don't head off in the wrong route. So this slide shows you the different perspectives that we're looking at. I'm going to focus today on not the first 2, but the perspective of us as researchers, what we're doing, the perspective of the building practitioners, because we've got some preliminary results there, and then perhaps just add a comment on the 5th perspective, that of New Zealand residents. So I think you'll be able to access these slides after this, but I'm going to leave you to read perspectives of people with disabilities on your own, and the perspective of legislators, because those have been talked about, and go on to my own perspective as a researcher in the project. So our project will measure a whole lot of New Zealand public buildings and look at their accessible features and compare them with the New Zealand standards to see how they stack up. We will then list a set of priorities for change, which we plan to hand over to the legislators. We will produce some quick fact sheets and information sheets to give to construction stakeholders, and I'll explain why we need to do that later on. A big part of what we're doing is including the education of this topic to our future construction stakeholders. So we've started this year, and we have already 120 Master of Construction students, all of whom have to do a literature review on different aspects of universal design, so that they at least get to the basics of what it means and why it's important. We'll have another probably 80 students picking that up as a part of their Master of Construction program later on this year. And over the course of the year, we'll have between 20 and 30 students who will be doing actual research projects on equitable access. So we really are aware that these people will go out and hopefully have a good idea before they start practicing about what the issues are and how they can be improved. In terms of looking at the perspective of building practitioners, we've surveyed 61 New Zealand building professionals, and we have found that they are quite passive about the problem of equitable access. They don't know a lot about the problems that the actual people with disabilities face. They don't have a lot of training in the area. They're a bit stumped on where to find information. And the big one is that they do not want to bear the cost of improving access in buildings. And I know that some people get quite indignant when they see that and they say, well, they definitely should bear the cost, but construction companies are operating on the basis that if they don't make a profit, they go out of business. So they have to be concerned about the cost. And from our point of view, that's a reasonable concern. And I'll talk about that in a minute and later on in my talk. We've also talked to some employees in some of the public buildings, shops, restaurants and libraries. And obviously the first finding we've got is that the bigger the business is, the better its access facilities and the better training its staff has. So that's not surprising. The next point we found is that mobility impairment is the one impairment that generally is considered. The other impairments, vision, hearing, cognitive, are largely ignored, which is a bit of a shame. There's definite room for improvement there. The people who work in the buildings are generally willing to help people with disabilities, but they often don't know how, so they're not familiar with different forms of communication and that type of thing. Again, for them, cost is a huge problem. So we talked to quite a few restaurant owners, and if they've got a little restaurant, they want to fill it with tables. They don't want to say, right, their aisles have to be very wide access and that type of thing. And again, that's a reasonable attitude from their point of view because they're just trying to survive in quite a competitive business. We also obviously did find some ableist attitudes, and that's somebody else is talking about that later.
Claire, just a second, Claire, please, can
Yeah.
you slow down a little bit?
Yep.
So that will
Okay.
make our life from our interpreters a little bit easier. Thank
Okay,
you.
sorry. So then the last perspective, and the last thing I'll talk about, is the perspective of the average New Zealander. So, and again, this is just our point of view here, that in New Zealand, the government provides a lot of excellent social schemes like the winter heating subsidy, and that gets taxpayer funding to allow it to happen. So our perception is that if New Zealand, the average New Zealand person was more aware of the problems that people with disabilities face when they try to access buildings, then they would have a lot more concern or awareness of it. And also if the general public was aware that as they age, they are likely to become people with disabilities themselves, then we think that the attitude would change to, yes, we support our taxpayer money going to funding access improvements. And if we were to spread that cost amongst everyone, then we're pretty sure that the situation would improve in New Zealand's public buildings. The building professionals would be a lot more on board with it because they wouldn't be solely responsible for the cost. We obviously need more comprehensive and mandatory legislation. And in terms of monitoring and enforcement, we suggest that if the access features were added to the BWAF system, the Building Warrant of Fitness, that it would then become like all the other critical features in a building. So fire protection, emergency lighting, and on and on. Those are all currently listed on the BWAF, and that gets renewed and checked every year. and the building doesn't get to stay open unless those features are checked and certified as compliant. So our question then is, why can't we add the access features to that BWOF and they get checked every year and monitored that way? So there's an email if you didn't get all of that, and then I talked too quickly, but yeah, so that's what we're doing.
Wow, thank you very much. That sounds like really important topics. And I think the fact that you guys have implemented that diversity of impairment is unusual in some ways, because we don't often see that. So thank you. We've got some questions. So shall we get straight into it? Now we've got a couple of questions here. Let me go back a couple. There was one, oh, Natasha, we really need to keep lobbying. She's got, how do we get government agencies like Kāinga Ora to meet its accessibility targets, which are only 15%, and use the situation of likely public-private partnerships that will arise under the current government to get more accessible social housing. We really need to keep lobbying, because you won't be seeing it with this current coalition. And previously we had that big issue. The other question is, why compare the buildings only to NZ 4121, given that it's over 20 years out of date and very far behind? Yes, it's well over 20 years. What are your takes on the 4121 building code? It's very out of date, but I wondered what the architectural experts think about that. Your thoughts?
I'm not sure that I could call myself an architectural expert, so Lee, you might want to answer that.
No, I'm
one.
in the same space.
Okay.
I'm an urban designer. I can't comment at that finer grained level of detail. No, I can't.
Okay.
What I can say is we use that one because it's the one that exists in this country.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad standard. The problem is that under the building code, there are minimum requirements, but they don't translate into everything that's in NZS 4121 is necessarily mandated in buildings. So for example, if the building has less than 10 people employed in it, it doesn't have to meet those standards. If the building is a heritage building, there are lots of loopholes around that as well. So from our point of view, I mentioned the standard in one of my slides, but there are other standards around hearing and around vision, and we certainly are looking at those as well. They obviously do need to be updated, and we're aware of that. And in passing our findings over to the legislators, we will be saying, look, compared with the UK standard or the Japanese standard, we could improve here, so that we can update those standards, because you're right, they are out of date and they could do better.
Thank you. And I've got Lanita, and then I'll go to you, Than. Hi, Claire. Do you have someone living with dementia on your advisory group, or someone representing dementia?
Yes, we do. So we have a couple of our panel members who are part of CCS disability. We have some who have actual expertise, either themselves or family members who have cognitive problems. So yeah, we're super aware that academics can be awfully stupid in this area. So we put our panel of experts above us and we say, okay, we think we want to do this. And they say, yeah, but you missed this point. And so we're super aware that unless we do that, potentially we do useless research, which we're trying not to do.
Well, thank you very much. Than, kia ora. Oh, you're on mute. Can't hear you. Is there sound? Hang on, let me see. Can I? Yeah, I can't hear you. Try again. No, you might have to type it in. Sorry, I can't. Well, I hope they get your sound sorted, because I think you're presenting next time, or you're on the next panel. Sorry about that. We'll need to deal with that being typed in. We've got, there are even examples, this is from John, there are even examples where NZ 4121 differs from other acceptable solutions, such as D1-AS1. So that's interesting. What's also interesting is we've got brand new suburbs in Auckland completely missing any accessible housing. So we're actually finding disabled are now being forced away from certain suburbs because these brand new places don't cater to the need. And that's another future issue, because there's no cradle to grave concept around housing, whereas LifeMark standard would make a difference. What are your thoughts there? I mean, do you think we can build accessibility when we have so much going wrong now?
I think we sort of have to do better, but I think that when you've got legislation that's hard to understand, that's got all these confusing bits, the one part says this and the next part says something completely different. And by the way, if you're worried about the aesthetics of your building, you can stick the access ramp at the back or something like that. Those are the kinds of things that need to be fixed quite urgently. And yeah, so definitely we need proper comprehensive legislation and enforcement. So nobody wants really to go to the US system where people are sued if they don't have adequate access, but there's a happy medium where you do have some enforcement and some actual serious fines for non-compliance. And I've done a bit of work in fire protection in buildings. If your fire systems aren't working, your building is closed until you get a notice saying, okay, you can open up. Now, if you had the same system for access features, people would suddenly stop saying, well, you know what, we can stick all the cleaning supplies in the accessible bathroom because it's got lots of space. And they'd be told, no, your building is closed until you perform properly. And I'm a bit of a carrot and stick person, so I say yes, we can throw some taxpayer funding at this problem, but we also have to have the stick that says if you don't perform properly, your building is closed until further notice.
Dr. Claire, I'm in love with you. We'll talk after this. I have some ideas of how we can, work together to implement. So thank you.
Excellent. Please give me an email and I'll be delighted to talk more.
I know our friend won't be too shy in coming forward. Any thoughts on those two pieces of legislations or policies, Lee, do you think? Or
Look, I think for me, this is 101 urban design, is inclusive communities. That's 101 sort of stuff. And, this is what we talk about all the time. And I think one of your previous panel members in the last session sort of highlighted this sort of thing. And what you've highlighted, everyone builds the minimum standards, and that's just the nature of what we're doing. And, and that's the big critique about what are we actually doing? I talked about, we should be thinking about rights to the city, social justice, all those types of things should be fundamental in our thinking. And that's 101 urban design, architecture, should be architecture and urban planning as well. The real issue here is, as you've said, where's the lobbying? Where's the actual implementation tools to actually make this all happen? And this is what frustrates me, like the concepts of we have somehow land supply is going to lead you to affordable housing. That's not going to work. And we know that doesn't work, yet you've got the constant rhetoric from both sides of the house talking about these things, but actually not delivering on these things. So that's all I can really say. I mean, from an educator's point of view and from a practical urban design point of view, these are things that you should be doing. We should be thinking, as you said, multi-generational housing. We're not just designing 2-bedroom townhouses, and we're not designing single detached homes out in, whatever part of Auckland you might be alluding to. I can totally understand what you're talking about. And why aren't we doing that? Why aren't we required to do that? Why aren't we required to provide more social housing? It's really interesting. You can't, in my mind, you can't allow the market to live with social housing because it's not designed to do that. In every place that we talk about sort of things, there is significant government intervention. And that's what's actually needed here. So I think there's a bigger conversation about how we treat these sort of things. And I can't say much more than that because it's really, really frustrating. But we do need to lobby and we need to have new leadership. And then if we flow on top of that, the thing that really concerns me, I've talked about AI and changing technology, is how are we going to deal with the global challenges that are facing us? We've got managed retreat, we've got climate change. We're going to have to redesign whole communities. we're going to move them. How do we do that? How do we design those inclusive spaces so that they're designed for everyone? How do we do it so that just the wealthy people just don't move back into some place? How do we do that from an equity point of view across the board? So I think there's some real fundamental challenges that we're facing, but I don't think we're addressing.
Do you think, I know, well, one of the issues, Hobsonville has done a huge development, of course,
Yeah,
as we
done a lot
know.
of work on Hobsonville.
We actually tested with a developer when I was involved with housing, and the developer agreed and added an extra floor. That way, then they were able to add a lift and found that they actually saved $100,000 rather than lost money because they gained an asset by creating accessible environment in the units as well, which led to being able to create more rather than less. And rather than just throwing us down on the bottom floor and saying that's good enough for you, mate, it was a design of thought, and it came out really well. I wonder about relationships with disability organizations as a way forward with developers and architects to design. I mean, yeah, it's a concern that we've got housing being built for the next 50 years or so, which completely and utterly will need a complete retrofit, which is going to cost a fortune if anyone wants to stay there and modify it.
I think the thing is, we secured a lot of MB funding to look at Hobsonville and did a lot of work, and you go to the Science Challenge 11 that we were involved in Hobsonville. Hobsonville is probably not the best example because remember it was run, HLC was a Crown agency. And that morphed into Kaingora with Housing Corp and such like. So there's a really interesting question about the returns and all that sort of stuff that played out there. So there's a long story with Hobsonville. But what you're sort of highlighting is what you're talking, that concept of value capture uplift, which I know the Minister has talked about. But unfortunately, I would argue very strongly that you can't, and that's what you're saying, is if you give extra this, you can get this, is what you're sort of saying. That's a very Vancouver type of model, very common in a lot of other jurisdictions around the world where you allow value capture. So much goes to the land developer, so much goes to the community, and so much goes to the property developer. Unfortunately, our system, we've created a system where it all goes to the land developer and then really squeezes the property developer.
You're right. And one other school of thought, the multi-generational housing. I pushed for it while I was there and no one was interested, but I noted about a year or so ago, they announced they were going to do their first multi-generational housing project in Mangere, which was interesting because it was actually Māori and Pacifica and migrant groups that I was saying were missing out on that support. But more than that, it would save the government a lot of social money because you then have multi-generations living together, reducing the need for supports outside of the house and providing natural supports in a way that helps each generation and reduces the risk of violence, the risk of poverty. And if you provided a loan equity, they could eventually own it as a family, as family groups, and be able to gain autonomy and an asset that would grow within. And I wonder why we have such short-sighted projects in Aotearoa. Because, it seems we don't think outside the nuclear. And it doesn't make sense.
Well, that's because we favour one group over another. And that's the political decision. Let's be honest, that's what we've done. We've favoured one group over another. And that's predominantly the land owning group. And that's been, it's for the last 20, 30 years, we've done that. And we don't have opportunities really to have value capture uplifts. We don't really support people, and it really frustrates me that 50% of people are not owning homes, and we don't have the models in place to enable that. And those are bigger macro questions that I totally agree with you. But from a designer's point of view, as I say, 101 would be to have an integrated community, multi-generational houses. There's so much literature. We could talk all day about this, about the benefits of having people aging in place, reduced travel demand, health benefits, dealing with all forms of disability, dementia, anxiety, all of those things. But we just don't seem to really meaningfully do this.
Absolutely. Dr.
Thank
Hu.
you. Yes.
Sorry, I would just have to jump in here.
Yep.
This conversation is so interesting. I wish we had like 3 hours to continue going on, but we will need to do a 5-minute comfort break. And any outstanding questions, if both Dr. Lee and Dr. Claire are happy to respond afterwards in writing, then we can share that.
Thank you.
And
I was about to close it off. Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. So
Thank you for your
let's,
time.
yes, and I will reach out offline. So because I think there's a lot of room for further collaboration. So now let's just do 5-minute comfort break and returning back. My maths are horrible. What's the time now?
10:40, shall we say?
10:40, thank you. All right, so returning back 10:40. Thank you. Okay, let's get back to action. How refreshing it is to have such, brilliant minds coming together and being able to discuss, possible solutions for an issue that affects so many people in this country. Now we're going to move to our third panel, the creators, and mediating this panel is Dr. Sally Britnell. She's a senior academic at Auckland University of Technology. Dr. Sally, please, would like you to introduce the panelists and give them 3 minutes for the initial statement. Just a reminder for the speakers and the mediator. So please speak calmly so our New Zealand Sign Language interpreters, Rosie and Melody, have time to interpret. The word is with you, Dr. Sally.
Thanks, Juliana. So I'm Sally Britnell. I haven't met many of you. I don't think. I've been looking at the list of people in here. I have the pleasure of introducing 3 panelists, and I will let them tell you a little bit about their job and what they do. But I think that we're going to have a nice spread of urban planning and design. So I'd first like to introduce Than Nguyen and George Weeks and Glenn Forrest. If you could, in that order, just introduce yourselves, guys, that would be fantastic. Hopefully Than's got his sound going. Cross fingers. Do we have sound?
No.
No, okay. Shall we move on to George while Than looks at his sound? Apologies, I can't help you because thank you, Juliana, for pointing it out. I should probably point out that I'm actually deafblind, which is one of the reasons I'm not following comments. So thank you, Than. If we can go on to George, that would be great.
Kia ora koutou. Good morning, everybody. My name is George Weeks. I'm a principal urban designer at Kāinga Ora, and I am the author of Kāinga Ora Master Planning for Universal Design. So I'm going to be explaining what that means for shaping the built environment.
And Glenn, whereabouts are you? I'm not sure where you are on my screen.
I'm Glenn, Director at Team Architects in the Auckland office. We have 9 nationwide. My primary role for the last decade has been master planning, small through to quite large residential developments with across all typologies, and some experience in aged care and hospitality type work also.
Excellent. Now, Than looks like he has turned his camera off, and I can't quite tell. Isabel, is he still muted?
So he is not muted.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
We can, yay!
God, technology.
Excellent.
Morena, yeah, I'm one of the principal architect at Becca. Having technology problem, I've been quite sick as well, so I'm not sounding great either online, so apology for that. I had around 25 years of experience working across quite a number of public civic projects. Become very very involved with, I guess, accessibility more recently through working with the Pacific Disability Group. And yeah, no, thank you for the invite to join this great conversation.
Excellent. Fun. Can you turn your camera on?
I can't. It said the house
Ah,
won't let
okay,
me.
no problem. No problem. So guys, what I was thinking about when all of these conversations were going on was the disparate silos of people that are actually working on this, and the disparate groups that are actually listening and wanting to get their accessibility views across. So should we start? Oh, welcome, Fun. You've got your camera, I think. Yes, you have. So does anyone want to start with that one? George, Thun, Glenn?
Sure. I guess I can
Go for it.
start. Yeah, I mean, there's been some great commentary this morning, and all of the needs are very apparent. And I guess particularly for myself, working on mainly housing developments, I have a particular perspective on why things are the way they are at the moment. Things are siloed all the way through from someone acquiring the land at the start to delivering the home at the end. That also means siloed interests.
Yep.
So people stand to gain at every part of the food chain of delivery of a home. And unfortunately, the incentives over recent years have not contributed to great housing outcomes in terms of choice for everyone, let alone people with disability limitations. So I guess in an ideal world, I think every home would be universally accessible. We're not there, and I guess what incentives I'm seeing or have seen, look, there's been a massive push for intensification. There's been a lot of spatial planning allowing intensification, but other incentives are more financial, so reduced development costs for smaller homes. So we get a proliferation of 2 and 3 bed homes designed to minimal spatial standards. If someone brings us a big piece of land, they want maximum amount of lots for maximum profit. Now, often there is a disconnect between that land developer and then the property developer and, of course, the end owner. So those land developers, their interest is in maximising that yield. Now, really, it's pretty hard as an architect to influence that. We propose all sorts of good things, well-meaning things, but ultimately the drivers are financial. So I guess I would come around and say that legislation is probably the only way forward, in much the same way it's been legislated for under precinct plans and SHAs in Auckland to have a proportion of affordable homes per development. That would be a mechanism that could be applied to ensure there are a number of accessible homes per development. This is in lieu of a greater outcome, which would be all homes being universally designed, which should happen at sort of Building Act and Building Code level.
Cool. Something that made me think of just there was a story of a friend of mine who is also deafblind, and she has been trying to get into social housing and has been having issues where a lot of the newer designs don't have the hat or the smoke alarms and things available in the larger builds. And I'm just curious, this is a question from me, if any of you on the panel know, the woman earlier was saying, from Massey, was saying that fire regulations are actually mandated. And I wondered if you guys knew if things like the alarm systems or the bottom of the line alarm systems that you can't hook things into in some of the big apartment blocks will be mandated as well. Or maybe Dr. Who could answer that one. I'm not sure. Maybe there isn't an answer. Any thoughts?
Sally, maybe just we should start with the opening statement. Give the opportunity to George and then give the opening statements.
Then I
and
thought
then,
I'd done his. Yeah.
And then we can get into the questions.
Yeah, go for it. So George, did you want to add some more?
I can't answer that question. I've got a presentation which I wouldn't mind giving, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Sure. Awesome. Go for it. Do you have to share the screen or?
I absolutely do. 1 second. Let me just share.
Cool.
Yada, yada, yada.
George, just please be mindful to share, to describe any content in your slides so our attendees who have visual impairments can have access to the information.
Okie dokie. That's fine. Are we ready?
Yep, go for it.
So let's go. Okay, kia ora koutou. My name is George Weeks, and I'm here to talk about master planning for universal design. And this is a new Kāinga Ora guidance document, and this is a photograph of the front cover, an old couple walking down the street with a shopping trolley. I'm going to explain why we wrote it, what it does, and how it's relevant today. Now, if I say Kāinga Ora, you might say that's the new name for Housing New Zealand, isn't it? I've got the two logos up there. But we do manage state houses, but we also do urban development. We're a combination of Housing New Zealand, HLC, who built Hobsonville, and also KiwiBuild. And I'd like to start off with a quote. The city is grand because it grants everyone the opportunity to make the most of themselves. Now, do we know who said this? It wasn't Wayne Brown. It wasn't Christopher Luxon either. It was Pericles, shown here, who was ruler of Athens at its peak 2,500 years ago. Athens was very much a city that worked well because all of its citizens were able to take part. So moving to the 21st century, here's a photograph of me on the bonnet of a car, at the wheel of a car, with a motorbike, with a bicycle, sailing, and on horseback. This is me. I don't have lived experience of disability, but I'm a pretty multimodal fellow, and I really enjoy getting around by any means possible. And as a general rule, people benefit hugely from freedom of movement. And this brings me on to universal design, which is good design that works for everyone. I've got a quote from the New Zealand Disability Strategy, which is, universal design is about making sure everything is accessible to, understood by, and used to the greatest extent possible by everyone without adaptation or requiring little adaptation. In other words, looking beyond the needs of a stereotypical Mr. Average to really think about the wider needs of society. Because universal design, I must emphasize, brings benefits to absolutely everyone. It works for pregnant women. It works for carers and their babies. It works for toddlers, for children, for old people, for people with temporary injuries, people carrying loads, people who are blind, people who don't speak English as a first language, people with neurodiversity or mobility impairments. I think the point is that not all disabilities are visible and everyone benefits from universal design. And even if you have no disability yourselves, you can do an experiment. Borrow somebody's child, push them around Auckland in a buggy, and see how long it takes until you get sore wrists from maneuvering the buggy up and down curbs. And then imagine doing this if old or ill or disabled. As the consultant City Infinity says, a tiny piece of detail can make a huge difference. For example, lowering the pedestrians down to the level of the road with a ramp. This is a photograph of a pram ramp with a little buggy on it. Or even better, like this photograph of a raised pedestrian crossing, raising the road to the height of the pedestrian. As accessibility advocate Vivian Naylor says, a raised platform crossing ultimately removes my disability. Vivian is a wheelchair user. Small details make a big difference. And yesterday's post on the Greater Auckland blog made this precise point in favour of raised pedestrian crossings. So please do read Greater Auckland. The URL is at the top of the page. Now, this is not rocket science, and nor is it gold plating. Here's a picture of a big gold toilet crossed out. This is about getting the nuts and bolts right. Picture of nuts and bolts. It doesn't cost any more to specify the correct size of nut, but it saves a lot of money later on. Now, Kāinga Ora holds on to its assets for a long time, and as this graph shows, it's very expensive to make design changes at the end, but cheap at the start. And you can't make many changes at the end, but you can specify things correctly at the start. And this is something that we need to do. The Kāinga Ora Act is just one policy that sets out the need for inclusive environments. I've got a picture here from a cartoon by Louis Hellman showing a library with a big staircase outside, and people are having trouble getting up and down the stairs because that's, as somebody mentioned earlier, a public building that doesn't work for everyone. Now, this guide is called Master Planning for Universal Design, and I've underlined the master planning word. And this is very important because we already have guidance for houses and flats. But what about happens when you leave the front door? What about when you want to go to your neighborhood? This is a map showing a theoretical neighborhood. If you want to go to visit green space, or you want to see your friends at their houses, or to go to the shops, or to go to school, or if you want to leave your neighborhood and go to another part of the city by public transport, small details can be the decider between whether or not you leave your house. I must emphasize, this is not first principles clean sheet guidance. I've got some examples here of guidance from the UN, from Ireland, from New York, from Auckland. We don't need to write any more first principles guidance. The world is drowning in good guidance. We don't need any more. What we are doing is saying, what does best practice look like for Kāinga Ora? And this is something that we do already. I've got a photograph, screenshots of some of our existing design guides, and now the design guide, Master Planning for Universal Design, is part of the suite. So to produce this guidance, we engaged a consultant of national distinction, Dr. Bridget Doran, and she produced a 60% document, which we reviewed externally with Auckland Council, Wellington Council, Blind Low Vision New Zealand, and a few others. And then from this, we produced a longer document that was then reviewed by many organisations, including Living Streets, Disabled People's Coalition, Disability Collect, and others, and also internally by many teams in Kāinga Ora. And what all of this engagement led to was the document I mentioned earlier, Master Planning for Universal Design. It's a 30-page document. If you only read one page, read page 20. This is the SOS checklist, safe, obvious, step-free. And for each of these outcomes, there are criteria plus quantitative standards. Meet them all for safe, for obvious, and step-free, and you'll be on the right track. There are further details based upon the requirements of 3 personas, a blind adult, an 8-year-old child, and a wheelchair user. We're going to add more personas. I think neurodiversity is next on the shopping list. And with this information, we can propose interventions that will deliver inclusive streets, such as shown on the right of this slide. And just to finish off, this works at neighbourhood scale too. It can tell us where it's best to build full universal design and accessible homes. We can work out where's the best place for social infrastructure, and we can have honest conversations about whether a particular location is suitable for universally designed houses at all, such as the top of a mountain. Not ideal. The point is to show what success looks like and make it easier to specify best practice. There are only a few steps from inaccessibility to inclusivity, and an absence of aspiration leads to mediocrity. So please do use Master Planning for Universal Design. You can download it via the internet. Just Google Master Planning for Universal Design, or you can email me directly, george.weeks@kayengaora.govt.nz, phone me 021 192 7255. That is all. Thank you.
Awesome, George. Now, I'm not going to forget page 20.
No,
That's a good
no
memory.
offense, 20.
So, Than, did you have anything else that you
Yeah,
wanted
look, in
to
the
add?
interest of saving time, that's an amazing guy. And
Yep.
I think all we need to do, really, if we can, as an outcome for today, is to recommend all the councils to adopt it. That would be a small win, you know, without
I still
any,
believe we need teeth too. We need teeth to be
any,
able to actually do it.
any cost.
So that's awesome
No
work,
need for more
George.
guys. And
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's the fundamental issue right there. Is still a guide or guideline. It should be a standard. I think that's the next step.
Or legislated.
We need to make that happen somehow.
Cool.
And we do need teeth. That's the main thing. I guess I'm sorry. I'm usually just jump into a rant as I do. My final point is somehow we need to make accessibility the main topic. You know, I mean, we've been talking about sustainability, climate resilience, and also other, you know, interesting things for the last 10, 20 years. Accessibility is kind of always been in the background. I think we need to really make it one of the key topic moving forward. Just a note from one of our great client. They're pushing very hard with the UN with the funding model. So if there's funding for climate resilience, somehow there should be a reporting mechanism to make sure that a certain portion of it actually address accessibility, because otherwise you end up with inequality without it. So yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Than. And did you have anything to add to that before we go on, Glenn?
Yeah, I have a little more to say. I guess before I had my little opening about what I see as the driver of the outcomes we're seeing in new large developments, which is largely that disconnect between land delivery, land cost, and all the incentives that have been applied to deliver small, so-called affordable homes. Really, it's been an upward spiral in costs, to be honest. It's just ramped up with cheap finance and all that sort of stuff. I guess to further that, if there is legislation that essentially it will, especially terrace developments, force homes to be a little larger to accommodate the spatial requirements to enable better accessibility, that ultimately leads to a lower number of lots. So in the short term, there'd be a bunch of developers that are pretty dark because their yield would be less. But long term, if that's normalized, then anyone purchasing development land going forward would go into it with that expectation. So any changes that are made that might be, I don't know, shouted down by certain interested groups, it wouldn't be forever. We're seeing a bit of that pain at the moment where people overpaid during COVID for land and now they can't deliver on what they thought they could. So there's opportunity there, but some short-term pain in the way. Well, a consequence short-term also of providing a few accessible homes is that they'd be in hot demand. and also a little larger, the cost, I'm wary, could go up on those homes. And this is to the open market. So I'm not talking about, say, Kāinga Ora's model or community housing providers, etc. That's a concern, and that's why I think as quickly as possible we'd want to see universal design standards put into legislation so that actually every home is that way. It would take that, let's say, premium of that product out of the market, because every home would meet the need. And then I just wanted to segue into actually our biggest body of housing stocks, our existing housing stock, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Yes, older homes are difficult and costly to upgrade. However, many of them are usually undergoing renovation anyway. So if renovations are happening, then adaptation can happen at the same time. Thereby, the cost is a little lower. Now, there's already financial incentives for including healthy home requirements. You can go to your major banks and they'll give you a 1% loan to put in heat pumps and insulation and all of those things that keep you warm. I think it would be an interesting avenue for groups like this to pursue the banks and ask for a similar facility for accessibility upgrades, so that an existing homeowner, whether you're an occupier or a landlord, you can pursue 1% finance, for example, for some just modest accessibility upgrades. That would put you more on par with, say, government agency borrowing sort of interest rates. So I think there is an avenue there to try and get better access to finance for these things that would help upgrade our existing housing stock from an accessibility perspective. The other things might be getting some streamlined consenting processes through councils that favour making these upgrades. So there are levers to be pulled to improving our existing housing stock as well. Rental homes as well, just to add to that, healthy home standards got put in. All homes have to be upgraded to those healthy home standards. The same could happen if accessibility was added to the healthy homes legislation. I believe accessibility is part of having a healthy home. A healthy home is not just about how warm it is or the air you breathe, but also your ability to get around that home and use that home. So if we were to insert accessibility provisions into the healthy home standards, yep, there would be some noise from some landlords, but hey, maybe that's where the government can step in and provide some incentives. Maybe it's that affordable financing. Maybe it's some kind of rebate for those that choose to do it. But look, I think there's definitely room and carrot and stick type approaches to make this happen. But without any of these levers being pulled, we're going to get the status quo, because ultimately the interested parties are just interested in returning profits to their shareholders. So we need change, and it needs to be legislative change.
Awesome. I love what you say. And I think you've got some awesome ideas there, Glenn. And something that I thought about when you were talking there was, we do need those levers available, but we also need to bring other services and organisations with us. For example, health. And the example I have here is that to get any housing modifications, you need to get an occupational therapy assessment. If you can't afford the occupational therapy assessment, you need to go through the old district health boards or Te Whatu Ora. However, in saying that, if you need something done outside, they won't even see you, because the occupational therapists won't assess outside. So if you need something like fencing or stairs, it's really hard to get in that way for your own home. But I do believe that the 1% loans you're talking about could actually impact that situation as well. As somebody who does own, well, the bank owns my home, not me, but as someone who does own their own home, a 1% loan would let me fix the fence issues, among other things, and the stairs issues. So I'm sure a lot of other people would be in that boat as well. So some awesome ideas. Does anyone else have any ideas on how we could pull the levers, like Glenn was talking about, financially and in health organisations and other assessment agencies, because I still think we're working in a siloed manner. Any thoughts, George or Than? Go for it.
Yes, absolutely. So thanks. I think the health point is a really, really good one, because I mean, the best way to guarantee good health is to get half an hour of exercise or more per day. And this fundamentally depends on the quality of your street environment. If it's hostile, if you can't navigate easily, if it's unsafe, you're not going to bother. And I mean, the consequence of that, you can double your risk of heart disease, increase its risk of dementia by about 2/3. These are serious implications. So I think there's a space for the health sector really to be much bolder in advocating for universal design as standard and supporting the legislation for it, in terms of being the fence at the top of the cliff, not the ambulance at the bottom of it. Also, there's a lot of overlap with other things. Just the other thing I wanted to mention, picking up on Than's point about sustainability and accessibility, I'm also the author of the Kāinga Ora Sustainable Transport Outcomes, and that has so much overlap with the Master Planning for Universal Design. It's like an eclipse in terms of overlap, or maybe a MasterCard logo. So it specifically says that universal design is an outcome of sustainable transport, sorry, a supporting factor. So these are all different sides of the same dice. And yeah, I echo everyone's sentiment for the need for teeth. The built environment reflects what is profitable and legal. And that is fundamental. It does not reflect good design practice. It does not represent architectural think tanks. It represents what's profitable and legal. And teeth is a priority. And the more that health can advocate for that, the better.
Absolutely good point. And you've just reminded me of a couple of the other things that I deal with as a deafblind person. I know it's not in the built environment, but cars, electric cars not making a noise, and cars parking on footpaths. And it's reminded me that I think we need to go back to the basics and actually influence society into normalizing disability in society instead of using the deficit model that's used in health a lot. But I think I'm probably preaching to the converted here. Than, did you have anything
No,
to
I think
add?
you're probably right there. I was just thinking, I guess university was probably 20, 30 years ago for me now, but I don't remember us spending too much time learning about accessibility. But I don't think you can learn it. You have to experience it. I don't know. I mean, a client put me through one of their training workshop in Fiji actually recently, and it was amazing. But literally, you put someone in a blindfold, or put all that design student in a blindfold and make them spend 2 hours like that. I think they'll come out with an amazing understanding, or put an ear mask on them. Or, there's a whole bunch of exercise that probably, again, that whole silo factor. I think we need to train our designer as well to really appreciate what it meant.
There's some questions down here, and I wondered if I could ask Isabel's help in reading some of them out. I did see my name in one of them, and I do know that it's illegal for vehicles to park on footpaths, but when you ring the council, they say, well, we can't ticket them unless we come out and see it ourselves. Your photo is not good enough. So yeah, there are some issues in infrastructure and things like that as well that we need to solve to make it more accessible as well. So I think it's John said that, but I have to get very close to read the screen. So I wondered if Isabel would be able to help me out by reading out some of the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. John's one was more of just a note, that it is illegal for motor vehicles to block the footpath. And local council should be advised of this, and the owner can be fined. I wanted to collate some of the questions rather than asking a specific one, because there are some themes that are coming through. I'm seeing a lot of questions about navigating the balance of universal design principles with the need for customized solutions to ensure that homes are accessible and suitable for the diverse and evolving needs of disabled communities. One person put that really well, but a few people are asking about that. Especially, I'm getting a lot of questions coming through about wanting to know how they can give feedback on their Kāinga Ora homes that are not meeting their needs, even though they might be adhering to these principles. So what are the panel's thoughts on balancing making things maybe more customizable versus universal design?
George, I think you want to go on that one, don't you?
Yeah, just quickly on that. I think it comes back to good universal design works for as many people as possible. Somebody asked a question about noise, acoustic insulation to avoid overstimulating people. And acoustically insulated houses are good for so many other reasons. If you've got young babies who scream all night, or you like to watch the TV loud because you're deaf. The biggest complaint that we have with high density housing is noise. And the New Zealand building standards for noise insulation have not been updated, I believe, since 1955. Basically back to not long after the transistor was invented. Since then, we have much higher densities and much more ability to make noise. So a lot of good universal design really does work for as many people as possible. In terms of customization, that's very much case by case. If you want to raise issues specifically with your Kāinga Ora house, ask your housing support manager, but ask to speak directly to the accessibility team at Kāinga Ora. We have one. They're very good. They're very passionate. Ask your housing support manager to put you in touch with them directly, because they are the ones who have the bit between their teeth.
Good points. Anyone else on that?
Yeah,
Yep, you're over here, Glenn.
Can I speak briefly to the universal design aspect? I guess for existing standalone homes, I'm thinking of customization and adaptability. It's not such a big deal because they tend to have less constraints. You can chop out a wall, you can move something, they can be adapted over time. So there's a whole of life capacity to existing housing stock. If we get into terrace homes and newer homes, I would see the biggest problem being the spatial allowance from the get-go. So if we're making our terrace homes too narrow, the adaptability and customization potential is very limited, if not non-existent. So I think we really need to have some standards set around what minimum dimensional requirements are that will achieve universal outcomes. When we design terrace houses, we're literally stacking minimal dimensions up side by side to achieve a house width. We need to increase those minimum dimensions to an acceptable universal level. And then after that, coming into customization of things like acoustics, tactile finishes, all of that, it's all detail. If we don't have the space set aside from the outset when that land is subdivided, we're boxed into a corner for generations. So if we can get the spatial provision right, customization, whether full universal design's provided now or not, at least you have the space available to do that as your life changes, as your needs change. So I think that's a major, and you can't make your property wider. So we need to start with the basic spatial needs, and then after that, honestly, we've heard so many good solutions already today and all those great standards. Details exist. We can make these homes universally accessible. It's not a problem, but we can't change the physical limitations of our properties.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm.
Oh, did you want to talk, Juliana?
Yeah, I will jump in because time is up and we need to move. So there are outstanding questions. If the panelists are okay with that, we can send that offline later on, and you can reply to us in writing. We can distribute that. So we will reach out because I think there's great opportunity for collaboration. Legislation is something that Access Matters Aotearoa has been lobbying for the past 7 years, and joining forces, you know, like we can do petition, there's more that we can do if we come together to address those issues. Thank you so much for the panelists. Thank you, Dr. Sally. So finally, we will welcome our fourth and final panel, the doers. And mediating this panel is Mike Potter. Mike is the Chief Executive of Disability Connect. Mike, I will ask you to please introduce the panelists. And just a reminder for the speakers and panelists, please speak calmly so our New Zealand Sign Language interpreters, Rosie and Melody, have time to interpret. Mike, the word is with you.
Thank you so much, Juliana, and greetings, everyone. Gareth Reddy is from Signature Homes, or Signature Construction. Steve Jenkins is from GJ Gardner Homes, and Helen James is from LifeMark. And I wonder if the three of you would introduce yourself just in order to start with. So just start with Gareth, and then Steve, and then Helen. It's great.
Good morning. My name is Gareth Reddy, CEO of Signature Construction.
Thank you, Helen. Steve, you're next.
Yeah, so my name's Steve Jenkins. I'm the National Design Manager for GJ Gardner. We're predominantly a contract builder, which means we build for people. We don't do a lot of developments. I don't want to talk too much about us today, as I'm sure I have far more to learn from you than you will from me. I think the discussion so far has been, I guess, confronting and challenging, and I see the answers as being quite complicated. It is something that is important to me. My sister was in a wheelchair for the last few years of her life, and my father was only able to stay at home in the family home when he passed due to an accessible bathroom. So I really see the benefits of what we've talked about today. I have been listening and thinking about what part we play, and it brought up similar discussions around the responsibility triangle with the thermal performance. So that's something we've always been very keen on getting better performing homes. And we educated our team, we educated clients, but we never really got the same progress as we did through legislation and through the H1
Hi, Steve. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just I'll get you to come back to that in a second, but it's just initial statements first before people jump in. So, but just going well, but just hold your fire for now. Helen, you're up next. Just an initial statement, introducing yourself.
Yep, I'm Helen James. I work for LifeMark. 20 years ago, we were set up by CCS Disability Action, and we were set up to actually define what accessible homes were, because there was no standard. We set those standards up 20 years on. There is still no legislation, and we offer the only independent review and assurance process, which basically allows people who wish to actually build measurable levels of accessibility into their projects.
Great. Thank you, Helen. And just by introduction for myself, I have lived experience of disability through an accident 15 years ago. I built a house, or I had a house built for me that's accessible and great. But we've also, as part of Disability Connect, we've led a community housing collective where we've done research, pan-disability across all disabilities on housing. That research was published back in 2021. And that actually looks at all the different factors. So I've got all those sort of voices going around in my head, knowing that it's not just about the physical disabilities, but also the intellectual and the sensory disabilities also create challenges in terms of the types of housing that we provide. So now let's move to the next stage, which to hear from you just in terms of your views and some input. So Gareth, over to you first.
Thank you, Mike. So as noted, I've been with Signature Construction for 18 years. Started as a designer and draftsman, now in the CEO space. And one of our largest clients is Kāinga Ora, so it was good to hear from George there, along with a lot of community, other housing providers, Emerge Aotearoa, Accessible Properties we worked with before. And just listening to the room, and obviously, great speakers, and of course, thank you for the invite The social housing space is already doing great work in reducing barriers, and we work with Helen with Tamaki Regeneration. It's nice to see what you look like, Helen, versus the emails. And awesome work in that space, and we're managing to get lifts into several young order buildings. So we're doing 24-unit apartment blocks for KO at the moment. So great amount of work getting done in that space, and that's the legislation that's coming through from a FUD perspective, from a LifeMark perspective, or Tamaki Regeneration. So it's the private sector, which obviously is echoing through the room of where the work is required. We've got a few little solutions and plans in that space, but we'll let the conversation continue and circle back.
Thank you, Gareth. Steve, so you can keep going now. Rest of you.
Yeah, like I was saying, look, I think when I think about what part we have to play, we did a lot of work in the thermal efficiency space, but we never really got progress until legislation come in. So I guess while industry has a part to play, it does rely on both the public and the legislation to come in to kind of assist us. For us, I think our opportunity is to educate salespeople and clients so that they're actually asking for these things. If our clients aren't been given options, then how can they choose a better option? The real challenge is with the shift to medium density homes, like others have talked about, it's that spatial size. If we've got 4 metre wide sections or 4 metre wide terraces, you've got a 3 metre bedroom and you've got 900 millimetres left for the hallways. And that's something that's really hard to fix later on. There's a bit of talk about multi-generational homes earlier, which is out for consultation with the government at the moment. That's, I think, is a great idea, both for affordability, but also for well-integrated multi-generational homes. I guess that's where something could be done to say, hey, maybe that second dwelling or needs to have some accessibility requirements added to it. That could possibly be a good way of going forward. Another great initiative I thought about was actually in the Thames District Council, where they have the ability to have larger site coverage if you're using Landmark, and that's a real good encouragement to do that. It's good for everyone. So there are things that can be done like that. So it's yeah, lots to think about.
Oh, great, Steve. And Helen?
I gave some thought to actually sort of what makes an inclusive environment or inclusive community from our perspective and from our experience. And in regard to actually sort of developing that inclusive community, great that the actual master planning and the actual landscape is inclusive, but it needs to go beyond the garden gate. The homes actually need to be inclusive. And listening to that opening address, we looked at 70% of Kangaroo tenants, for instance, having disabilities. We should be setting bold targets. They should be 100% of those homes should be accessible if we're going to build that inclusive community for the future. In terms of defining what accessible is, we're in a space where we created 20 years ago a framework to define what accessible is. And we have a process to measure and review and provide assurance around that. But the language has actually changed over the last few years to accessible features, partial UD, which seems to be sometimes actually confused with accessible. And then there's also the actual discussion around adaptive housing. When we look at a best practice universal approach, possibly it will work for about 99.8 or 9%, but there's always going to be a need for homes that actually sort of exceed that and actually have that adaptability for, to suit specific needs. We also can't apply commercial standards. It was interesting, this discussion on making legislation. A little bit cynical after 20 years, if we continue to wish for legislation, we'll just keep kicking that can further and further down the road, and our population is aging rapidly. We can't afford to actually sort of wait. And very importantly, in terms of accessibility, it needs to be considered early on in the project. It can't be actually sort of shoved into a home at the end. It needs to be part of early discussion, part of the design brief, and then it needs to be actually sort of designed into the home from concept. If I look at sort of solutions, because this is a great opportunity to talk about what we can do. If we can't have legislation, what can we do? Yes, it is. I think councils have a huge role to actually play in this. If I actually look at sort of particularly councils such as Thames Coromandel that are ageing quite rapidly, they 4 years ago actually sort of introduced, as GJ Gardner explained, they introduced a way to actually encourage voluntarily their housing stock to actually incorporate universal design. 60% of the homes built in that region are now actually designed to a LifeMark standard. And in an environment which actually loves minimums, most of those homes, actually 80% of those homes exceed minimums because the homeowners have bought into it. Not just Thames led or provided an initiative, because one of the questions was, can we force people to build accessible? Without legislation, no, we can't, but we can encourage people to do it. So that same initiative from Thames is actually now being explored by councils such as Hamilton City Council, by Wellington City Council, who are actually looking at 20% of apartment buildings to actually have good LifeMark 4-star accommodation. Moving forward from that, Christchurch City Council actually sort of were very bold probably about 4 years ago, and they actually encouraged, or they actually put an incentive to Fletcher Living to actually take the One Central development, 900 homes, and put 50% of them to actually making sure that they were visitable. And when we talk about legislation, most countries have actually started to actually sort of adopt a visitable standard. That is not accessible by any stage, but it does mean that people can get into the home. Moving forward, and it's a real shame Tamaki Generation can't talk, they've set incredibly bold targets. They're looking at 80% of their homes or their public homes to actually hit quite good accessible targets of LifeMark 4. And they've even been bolder again. They've actually sort of, in one of their developments, actually asked for 80% to be LifeMark 5. So it's this wheelchair accessible. So things are happening. It's just that we need more.
Wow, that's great. And thank you, all of you. You've touched on a whole bunch of issues there. The need to collaborate together to educate our clients. There's a challenge in terms of accessibility requiring generous space. And if the sites you've got don't allow for that generosity of space, there is compromising that goes on. The multi-generational incentivizing targets. But I just want to pick up on that last point that Helen made, was around visitability. And visitability means that anyone with a disability or a health concern would be able to visit the home and be able to get in through the ground floor. As I understand it, there would be a bedroom on the ground floor that is accessible, and there was a bathroom on the ground floor that is accessible, so that at least someone could visit. Do you think that's a realistic starting point where we should be looking at for building homes, or should we really be building better than that?
Sorry,
Helen, go on.
Visitability is actually less than that, Mike. It's actually sort of a home that you can get into that's step-free and that allows somebody to actually use a toilet. That is visitability, sadly.
Yep. Gareth?
Yeah, to touch on that, Helen, and albeit Tara's not here, and bless Tara from Tamaki, we're working directly with her team, and we're doing, achieving great things from that LifeMark perspective, and we're exceeding the sort of targets of, LifeMark 4 and LifeMark 3. And also dragging in, Mike, level entry as standard, FUD colour differential as standard, and starting to really leverage those learnings from, the social housing sector into private developments. And Glenn spoke before. We did a development with him, and it was Kiwi Build, it was Market, and it was community housing providers. And we sort of managed to leverage the learnings throughout 112 units, including fully accessible ones for our accessible properties. So, you certainly can, and it's not hard to tick some easy, low-hanging fruit wins, but they're often just overlooked, and from a budget perspective, it's the last thing that gets offered. When it comes down to the doers, and I'm excited about doing things, we had a 25-lot subdivision come in on Monday, and I said to this developer, why don't we do LifeMark? Because you want that point of difference from a sales perspective. The market is flooded with a whole lot of, and as Steve said, narrow sites, and tight terraces. And it was funny, it was an awkward silence. And he said, yeah, we should definitely do that because we want, that point of difference. So small wins.
Great. Steve, did you have anything to add around the whole visitability?
Yeah, look, I think it's something that doesn't get considered enough, really. And we do see a lot of the medium density too also going to living upstairs. So that creates even more issues for visibility, visitability. And again, the size of them restricts those lifts. So it's definitely something that probably needs some more thought and education on as well. And like Gareth has said, it's up to us as well to suggest these things back to the developers and highlight those advantages for them.
Yeah, in terms of knowing what to build, I mean, there's been suggestions earlier. I mean, we've seen the master plan that was introduced by George and the number of disability organisations that have had a role in that. Where can you guys get better input, if you like, in terms of what needs to be built? I mean, LifeMark is great in terms of giving some standards and some guidelines, but what about any other challenges and things that you might need to think about in terms of the local community, like a local flavour?
I'll talk to multi-generational from that local flavour perspective. We're doing 27 multi-generational homes in Otahu. I think the challenge, we've all spoken about, is that land cost and yield and profit. But to do 27 multi-generational homes, level entry, showers downstairs, bathrooms downstairs, and large 6-bedroom units, I don't know if the private sector would be able to entertain it, or they don't know there's a demand for it. But there's certainly a demand for it. It's just, not seen, Mike.
Yep. Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, well, look, I think the multi-generational thing's not only a great thing for those higher density areas, but even your other areas where there's well-distributed detached homes in that. What an ideal place to have a unit attached to a family home, whether that's for to rent out to make the land more affordable for the family home, but it also just spreads out those 1-bedroom flats through the community rather than putting them all together where we have density. I just think it's a really nice integrated way of doing it, and I think there's real opportunity there.
Absolutely. And Helen, any comments to add?
Yeah, well, we're actually starting to see, along with intergenerational homes, is that there's also homes being developed which give flexibility for a carer to actually live within the home too. Those conversations are actually few and far between, but you have to start thinking about that actually early in the process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a bunch of other considerations as well. With the research we did some years ago, there's some other things that haven't been talked about today, because so much of the focus does become around physical disabilities. It's a shame that it is. If you have low vision, one of the things you really like is light. Natural light. And there's, unfortunately, with many sites, that's really difficult. Another side is if you do happen to have a guide dog, or if you have a service dog, or you are visiting, you need somewhere for them to go to the toilet and to have a drink. There's a lot of finer details. Have those sorts of things been considerations that you would think within your wider planning for any home?
From our perspective, Mike, yes, but you've raised a very important point. For Tamaki, we're looking at lux levels. My dad has retinitis pigmentosus, which means he has tunnel vision, goes to the movie theaters and have to hold his hand to find where the toilets are. It's incredible how much light affects people's well-being. So we're dealing with lux levels, but actually we're putting AstroTurf into the back of some of these properties. Now I'm thinking if we've got service dogs, probably the last thing we want to do is put AstroTurf in. So that's probably a good thought there, Mike.
Yeah, Steve?
Yeah, look, we've talked a lot about the accessible homes and how it is to those requiring it, but a lot of what we talk about are just good things for most people. So we are always looking at our lux levels in our houses. We test those when we build them. It's not something that's necessarily restricted. I mean, everyone likes more room, everyone likes more natural light. These are all just good things we should be doing.
Helen, anything to add to
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, when we look at it from a best practice approach, we try and actually design, or we try and create a framework that works for 99.9. So there's never going to be a home that works for absolutely everybody. But when we actually do look at our framework and our standards, is light's actually really important for old people and for people who've got visual impairment. So we look very closely at things like task lighting, position of light switches and door handles, so we can orientate through the home. Even colour contrast, particularly when we're working within that retirement sector, where we know that people are going to have less vision.
My brother-in-law is an architect, and he used to design accessible housing for Kaingora, and he gave up in frustration. His designs were great, he said that, but he said, but when I went to go and see what was built, the builders said, well, we're not quite sure how to be able to do that, so they made something up on the spot. When it got signed off from council, they didn't even look at the plans closely enough and just signed it off because it looked like a good solution. It's a bit frustrating in that sense, but I think the industry's moved on a bit. In what ways do you see that you've moved on with that? I can see Helen shaking her head, but I'm just saying, I think this was 10 years ago, and I wonder if there's been what improvements have been over the 10 years. There's certainly, I think, some builders who are building better. Gareth and Steve?
Sorry, Steve, I'll go first if that's okay. Yeah, I was thinking, gosh, it must have been a while ago. We've been building for Housing New Zealand Core for 18 years. I don't believe we've cut any corners in regards to delivering accessibility, but it has certainly changed within the KO machine. You've got Consentum in place now, which is our own building consent authority. There's a far more significant, robust QA. But I think the biggest thing is the push legislation-wise for FUD. And we're pushing envelopes of houses on steep slopes that are really hard to achieve, a full universal design. But, there's actually appetite and budget for it. So they're doing a hell of a lot better now, as you said, along with the balance of the market.
Steve?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, things have certainly moved on for that stage, not just in accessibility, but definitely in as far as quality and consenting is concerned. It's still not something that I think there's much awareness of it in the general public. Like I say, we're dealing mainly with, I guess, your private builder building their family home for themselves. And quite often that doesn't come into their mind. Unless we push that to them. So, like I say, I think that's where our next step is with this.
Yep. Comments from Helen?
It's interesting because accessibility isn't a requirement under the building code. You can't force it. It exceeds. It's not actually checked within the consenting process that you have got your step-free access rights. You have got your reinforcing of your walls. You have got even the grab rail the right side of the wall to the, when using the shower. So yeah, I absolutely agree that if you care about your product, you're going to actually care about the outcome. You're going to take that through. But we developed a robust, sort of process to actually deal with that. We actually want to see all of those accessible requirements, all of our design requirements on the plans. We need to see that before it goes to building consent, and we give an assurance actually before it's consented, but we also follow it through post-construction, because I absolutely agree, is sometimes decisions are made on site which have a huge impact on the accessibility, particularly when you've actually got homes being handed over to power chair users with 150 mil steps at the front door, because that's what the builder's always done.
Great, thank you. Judy's asked a question. Lux level are important in dementia-friendly design. Do you consider this at all?
Talk a little bit about that. Yeah, we actually wanted to know what our houses were achieving, because there's a lot of things that can affect lux levels in a house. The colours in the house have a huge difference as to how much light they reflect. And so we went out and we actually did a survey across 12 homes across different parts of Auckland just to check what the lux levels were, and we took learnings from those and put them back into our network. So yeah, lux levels are definitely considered in how they affect, and it's lux and light is just part of good design as well. I think it's always considered.
Yeah. Anyone else on lux?
Oh, I think, Helen touched on one element of confusion between accessible FUD and highly modified homes. So in that sort of space, Mike, we'll call that a highly modified home, which we've done several for ACC with lifts and hoists, even using, which was touched on before, form and SIPS panels, dealt with a lot of autism and managing acoustic as well, but that will be, in my mind, the modified specific home, but certainly easier to achieve.
Helen, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I agree with Gareth, is that there's some things that you can do, such as tascolating over workbenches, which makes sense for everybody. But there is actually, when we're dealing with particular sort of visual impairments, dementia, autism, then it goes into exactly what Gareth said, which is sort of maybe an adaptive for the person that's actually going to live in that home.
Yeah, I've had a discussion with LifeMark about a proposed property that was being built. It's social housing, and it's owned by a church or a church type property, but they're going to build 3-level walk-up homes on it. And I'd fed back, well, actually, that's not community and that's not accessible. And the main reasons that came back were because of the cost and the little bit around the nature of the site in terms of geotechnical. They seem to be major barriers. How can we address those barriers more in terms of what's being built? Cost and geotechnical, because they're major barriers.
Yeah, Gareth, you go.
No, Helen, you go for it.
It is. I mean, it's a question. It's a question. If you're allowed to do it, why not? But sort of when we work with people who actually are interested in the outcome, part of that discussion is the amount of times we've heard is that the upstairs are for the more active older people. Well, there are no active older people. There are active now older people. So when we've had some of those discussions and we've actually talked through the demographics, talked through that sort of that cradle to grave, I know that when we worked with the Salvation Army on a 3-story walk-up, they actually made the decision to actually redesign it and put a lift in. So I think sometimes those conversations just aren't happening with the asset owner at the start.
Yeah. Well said, Helen. Firstly, I don't think geotechnical comes into play. We all the good sites are gone. We built on some real crap ground, if I can say that, online. But I think it really comes down to having the brave conversation. So we're putting in commercial lifts, but and they're with Coney, but there's different levels of lifts. And we're not talking like a platform lift. We're talking proper lifts that comply with NZS 4121. Hopefully I've said that the right order around. But you need to have the conversations. And if you're talking a $350,000 lift and structure, but you're looking at now, what is that asset worth? It's that whole expenditure, and especially what Steve was saying, George rather from KO, is now is the time to put that in, because to retrospectively put that in, almost impossible.
Steve, any thoughts on that?
No, much the same. Like Gareth said, geotechnical doesn't come into it. We are seeing more of those lifts go in, but it's generally in our market. We're not really dealing with the I guess those tighter sort of sections as well. We're generally looking at the more mature sort of client as well.
Yep, and scale. I mean, if there's more scale when it comes to lifts, right? That's going to bring the cost down. That's my belief. So the more those are demanded, that we have lifts that are built people know how to do it. They put the concrete foundations in, they put the lift. What actually scares a lot of people is the cost of a warrant of fitness for the lift and the ongoing costs of having it too. And that, I don't know there's much we can do about that.
Yeah, I suppose you've also then got to weigh the cost of not putting it in, particularly when you're in community housing or social housing and you then have to find a house for those people because they can no longer manage the lift. Then that's your hidden cost, isn't it?
Yep.
Mike?
Yes.
Sorry, Juliana. Yeah.
I've just got 1 minute to finish off, if I
No,
can,
no, no.
Juliana.
No, no,
And then I'll hand back to you.
No, there's a couple of questions, if you could. There's a Natasha Lewis question. And
Oh, sorry, I missed the last two. Yep.
The last two, if you can pause.
Sure. How do we also ensure that we connect planners and accessibility experts from the disability space with those working in aged residential care and retirement villages to ensure age-friendly and accessible design?
In my space, Mike, we're looking at working with a couple of larger developers in their retirement space. You know, I think now there's certainly evolved a hell of a lot more than previous. You know, there was very much a standard plan of this is what a retirement or senior living is. That's evolved significantly now. So I think that's already happening, and certainly the larger players, what we're observing.
But I think it's down to personal decision. They don't have to, they don't need to in terms of hitting those minimums. But, you know, I agree with Gareth, some of the more ambitious developers actually do have those conversations, and we actually work with quite a few of them.
Last question, does the panel know why ACC have the standard for installing a 1 in 10 internal ramp for internal ramps? I pointed out that the chair has to be pushed up the ramp, and this would be very difficult.
No idea whatsoever. You know, we recommend a 1 in 16 as our maximum. And basically, again, they can do whatever they want without any legislation.
Yep.
That 1 in 16 is very hard to achieve, Helen, I'd like to say, but we get there.
Yeah, we prefer a 1 in 20. So
I've got a 1 in 17 at home. It can be done, but you need to have the space. Yeah, so thank you so much, everyone. It was a really informed and valuable conversation. I'd like to hand back to Juliana. Kia ora.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We actually still have a few spare minutes that we can continue, you know, if people have more questions. And I actually do have a question for the panelists. What do you think? So Access Matters Aotearoa has been lobbying for, you know, legislation for many, many years, and we haven't been successful this far. What is your take? What do you think are the main roadblocks and potential solutions? Because New Zealand is very, very behind many other countries in terms of having accessibility legislation in place. And I would love to hear from you, your perspective. What do you think are the main roadblocks for passing this meaningful legislation with enforceable standards? Make sure that, you know, consent is only given if you have accessibility catered for, and potential solutions.
In terms of accessibility legislation applying to residential build, it's completely different from commercial. New Zealand is behind. Canada, UK, Australia, they've actually incorporated legislation which looks at it actually making sure visitability, and it's that really basic that Mike touched on. It's getting into a home and being able to use the toilet. It's that base level and making that a requirement in all new builds. It would be good if that came through, but I think is that the legislation is not going to be the panacea in terms of actually dealing with the aging population and homes suitable for disabled people. It's still going to be a bit of a hybrid between actually sort of creating homes that are actually easier for people to live and visit, and then creating homes that actually allow us to actually sort of live in our communities.
Yeah, I think so. Look, one of the other roadblocks out there is that the housing sector is under a lot of pressures from all aspects. We're trying to I guess, build our house to perform better in thermal, ventilation. There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and sometimes they also more affordable as well, which can also sort of compete. And I think those competing things are generally roadblocks for us. While we'd like to be across everything, sometimes though it's not always easy or possible to do. So I guess it's just those conflicting requirements. What works best for intensity doesn't work well for accessibility or light or things like that. So there's a lot of competing factors in there at the moment.
The other issue that's come into that, Juliana, is actually a lot of sort of misunderstanding around accessibility. What we've been able to prove, particularly with working with people like Fletcher Living on One Sackville down in Christchurch, is that you can deliver accessibility on scale with pretty much minimal cost. What we're actually working with Tamaki Regeneration, who is taking a far bolder approach in terms of addressing accessibility within their communities. They're taking it even further back into master planning and looking at the accessibility of the environment and the homes at the same time. I think that will be really interesting to watch, because that will remove some of the objections the construction sector has had on we can't afford to actually add cost to homes, and it's that whole affordability, and that has prevented accessibility from being actually sort of probably sort of incorporated into projects, because people don't want to pay more.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dr. Sally, that was mediating the other panel, she put here a suggestion that she said, I would like to send out a challenge to all panelists. What we can do in our own sphere of influence, what will be a tangible thing that each one of us can do. And what we're trying to achieve with the Corredor for Change is actually to share the responsibility of creating and fostering a more inclusive society, because the status quo today is that the burden falls on the individual with disability and their families. We have to be out there advocating nonstop. So what each one of you could do, in your sphere of influence, tangible things that can be done.
We developed a process which actually uses some measurable levels of accessibility. So visibility, LifeMark 3, 4-star, which is really good age friendly, and 5-star, which is actually a high performance wheelchair accessible environment. Personally, my desire is to actually push us all to try and achieve 4-star, and that is what LifeMark team have been doing, not settling for our own minimum, which exceeds the building code, but going even further.
Steve?
For us, it's probably, I think, just better education. We'd be quite keen to work with partners just to educate. Firstly, our salespeople, so they can educate their clients, because it is a discussion that needs to be had with our clients. If we're asking them to add an extra few meters onto the house, we have to explain the rationale behind that and what the advantages will be to it. So I think education for us is probably where we can achieve the most impact.
Brilliant. Okay, well, thank you so much. We'll get now the closing remarks. Time is up. It's been incredible to have this conversation this morning, listening from people from such diverse backgrounds, but this eagerness, to do better. And today was time for Corredor. We will try to actually put some action behind everything that was discussed today. So watch the space. We will reach out to all the panelists, mediators, and speakers to see how we can collaborate and continue this conversation. I will close us off with Karakia. Kia tō te rangi marie, o te rangi e tu ihunei, o papatua nuku e takoto nei, o te taio e awhi nei, ki runga ia tātou, tihei Mauri ora. May the peace of sky above, of the earth below, and all of the all-embracing universe rest upon us all. Behold, it is life. And with that, we close our House and the Built Environment Corridor for Change. Ka kite.